Okay, welcome to Mateo County Coastside Design Review Committee meeting. The Design Review Committee, as established in the zoning regulations, is appointed by the Board of Supervisors. Today is Thursday, May 12, 2022. The hearing consists of two projects. This meeting is being audio recorded. There are two opportunities for the public to speak, including oral communications for matters not on the agenda and a separate public comment session for each project on the agenda. Please review the agenda to identify items you wish to speak on at the time of that item. The chair will open the public comment sessions during the public comment period and for each item on the regular agenda. I will first read comments received before the meeting into the record. Then I will ask those members of the public who wish to comment to click the raise hand feature to raise your hand to speak on the agenda item. For those joined by phone, please press *9 to indicate your desire to speak. Please note that the members of the public must wait for my prompt in connection with each agenda item before using the raise hand function. For example, you cannot raise your hand at the beginning of the meeting for an agenda item that's later in the meeting. When you hear your name or the last 4 digits of your phone number called, I'll prompt you to unmute your account and inform you that you may begin speaking. I will then ask you to state your name, address, and email address for the record. For those joining by phone, please press *6 to unmute or to mute or unmute your microphone. The Design Review Committee's decision on item 1, if any, will be a recommendation regarding the project compliance and not a final decision on this project, and decision of which will take place at a later date. The Design Review Committee's decision for item 2, if any, are appealable to the Planning Commission within 10 working days by filing an appeal and paying the applicable filing fees. If you would like to file an appeal, please contact the project planner whose email address is listed on the agenda under their respective project. The appeal will be accepted by 5 p.m. on May 27, 2022. Depending on the scale and scope of changes, continued projects may be placed on next month's agenda if revisions are submitted to the county by the end of business day, May 20th, 2022. Applicants should note that the continuance letter may not be available by that day and are encouraged to take notes of the committee's feedback. And now the next Coastside Design Review Committee meeting will be on June 9th, 2022, Thursday. Item 1 on the agenda is the roll call. Katie Kostyuk.
Here, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Rebecca Captain.
Yes, present.
Christopher Johnson. Oh, he's no longer with us, sorry.
Oh.
Beverly Garrity.
Here.
Doug Machado.
Here.
Mark Steckmeyer.
Here.
Linda Patterson. Okay, not present. John Stedman. Okay, not present. With that, I turn it over to the chair.
Okay, as a matter of course, I need to read this, AB 361 resolution finding that as a result of the continuing COVID-19 pandemic state of emergency declared by Governor Newsom, meeting in person for meetings of the Coastside Design Review Committee would present imminent risks to the health or safety of attendees. So we will continue to meet on Zoom. You need a roll
motion
call?
that needs to be made, or
That's the motion.
that's the motion? Okay, sorry. Do you need a second? I'll second.
Second and roll call.
Okay, I'll do a roll call. Katie Kostyuk,
Yes.
Rebecca Captain,
Yes.
Beverly Garrity,
Yes.
Doug Machado,
Yes.
Mark Steckmeyer.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, motion passes.
Okay, I'll move on to the chairperson's report, and I'd like to just suggest that we do oral communications before we do the design review updates. We can start that since it's in the 2 PM section. But we do oral communications before the design review update. So if I need to make a motion on that, if we need approval, do we? Is everyone okay with that?
Yeah,
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Okay, terrific. All right, I'll go through the chair report. Okay, so demonstration of story polls just needs an update for who that will be reassigned to for, I guess, long-range planning. Does anyone know the answer to that?
Yeah, I think I previously discussed this with Camille. My understanding is that this task hasn't been reassigned. And Camille, you may have some, if you have any updates, please share with us.
I talked to Melissa Ross, the Long Range Planning Services Manager, about this, and they were not approved on the work plan for this year, so they may be picked up at a later time.
So they were
Sorry,
not-
the 3 design review related, except for the design standards update. But the other 2 design review related long range planning projects, the C1
Right, I'm
Midcoast,
referring to the story poll.
scale. Yeah, that's a demonstration of scale. So that is not on the work plan for this year.
Oh, I thought it was on the work plan for last year.
Right, and it was brought back to the planning commission, who did not, and it was not included for this year.
How does it get brought back to the planning commission and then off the work schedule?
I'm not completely sure of the frequency of the work plan review by the planning commission. Maybe it's annually, so that priorities are sort of reset and reconfirmed on that either annual or regular basis.
So is that why it went back to the planning commission, was for them to sort of reassess the priorities?
It was the full long range work plan. So all the work that long range does in every area of the county, in every area of regulation, they brought back that full long range workload to the planning commission, including these design review related projects. So
Okay, and so then at that time, the planning commission said something that basically kicked it on the back burner?
no, I think the long range planning services manager actually proposed it for next year,
Okay,
and it was approved as.
okay, gotcha. Okay, thanks for the clarity.
No problem.
All right.
Hmm.
Just as a point of discussion for the committee, what are your thoughts on this? Anyone?
Is it a way to appeal that decision, to just bump it to next year? You put a lot of time into it. Seems like it's just to get shelved. What if you just shelf it next year? Is it just going to go away?
I think you can maybe give send Melissa Ross an email if you want it to be made a priority the next time she goes forward with the long range work plan. It could also be a staffing issue where they're currently working on other higher priority projects like the, Connect the Coastside and Plan Princeton at the moment. So they may not have the staff to allocate right now, especially with the loss of Rommel.
And this is specifically for the demonstration of scale? Or is this for all of our long-term efforts?
This is the C1 Midcoast and the demonstration scale. Yeah, the design standards update. We want to be able to collect all your feedback now that we have a full and very experienced CDRC. Collect all your feedback, and then from there we have to take it forward with a work plan to get community engagement and the rest of the process, CEQA and adoption. So that might end up being, subject to the timing of other projects and priorities as well.
Okay, yeah, I mean, in response to your question, Beverly, I guess my main concern about it getting bumped to the following year is just that I know that specifically the demonstration of scale part is something that we all considered. We were requesting for that to be like an urgency ordinance type thing, because it's immediately impacting every project that comes through every month, and you know, we definitely have heard a lot of feedback from the community that they have been disappointed with what has been provided on a lot of projects.
Right.
Is there a
So-
different process or recommendation other than emailing Melissa Ross if we wanted to sort of poke the bear about that being an urgency thing and not just in a long range planning sort of thing?
I would say bring it up to the MCC, see if they feel the same, and maybe write a letter. I think that would make a big difference. But considering Connect the Coastside and, you know, all the other stuff that's going on right now, Plan Princeton, like an engagement on another project might, maybe that's what Melissa was thinking in terms of being too much for the public to like juggle, or even the MCC to juggle.
Right.
Well, it wasn't categorized as an urgency ordinance, was it? So if it were, would the process be different?
I think that there wouldn't be as much sort of run up in terms of public engagement. It would just probably go straight to the board and engage the public at that level. It may skip over CEQA because it's an urgency ordinance. But I think in order to really make that case, I think you'd have to get some probably broader participation from the community, the MCC, perhaps.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Camille. Okay, I'm going to merge the design standards update section and the CDRC positions. Yeah, I'd like to share my screen if that's okay. I went to the MCC and gave a presentation for recruitment. Just a second.
Thanks again for doing that, Beverly. I know that
Sure.
was some work for you to prepare everything.
Yeah, it was good though. Do you see my screen?
No.
Okay, let's see.
Okay,
See
now.
it now?
Yeah, it's coming up now.
Great. Okay, and it was very helpful. The MCC is very interested in supporting us in whatever way we need their support. So maybe we can articulate that a little bit more clearly. And there were some great questions and comments after the presentation. I'd like to share one or two in particular with you. Are you up for that? Can everyone hear me?
Yeah, please.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, all right. So here we go for the first one.
Thank you. Steve Terry, please. Yes, hey, thank you very much. Beverly, I appreciate the presentation. I want to make a few comments on CRC generally. I was part of the original group that was put together by Supervisor Gordon to come up with the Coastside Design Review Standards and the Design Review Committee 20-some years ago. One thing I want to say is that one of the driving factors for starting this process was that, in addition to the things you had mentioned, was that so many projects were getting appealed. That was really the driving force. And it was costing the county a lot of money. And I've heard comments here. I've heard several people say the word McMansion. That was certainly the word bandied about back then. And it was the lack of standards at all that were. It wasn't that ugly houses were being proposed as they were all McMansions. The builders were just trying to maximize profits by building out a lot as much as they could. And it was really ugly, and it was just not really in keeping. So that's what sort of caused Supervisor Gordon to initiate this whole process. It was great to hear Karen's comments because she was part of that original group also. As we sat and debated builders, they were just kind of working their best to try to relax any proposed standards we try to come up with. And her comments tonight were right on. I really enjoyed listening to those. One recurring frustration has been getting San Mateo County to enforce those standards. And I've heard several people comment on this also, and it's so true. This is both at the planning level and at the building inspection level, as people have also mentioned. And this tends to put a lot of unnecessary pressure on the CDRC, since they end up having to deal with all these many issues that planning really should have resolved and sort of fixed before it got there, so it didn't become contentious at the CDRC meetings. An example that I remember happening a lot was three-story buildings, which are prohibited by the standards, but they're often allowed on slope lots, which we have so many of around here. And such designs are supposed to be sloped to the contour, but the architects would always cheat on that. So you get legit three-story structures, and CDRC would be overwhelmed and didn't really seem to equip to address it. So it's a tough job. A continual problem, as mentioned, has been exterior lighting. In addition to all those building standards related to floor area ratio, lot coverage, and daylight planes, we included performance standards relating to light and noise. Exterior lighting, for example, is restricted to property. And I think what I've seen in the conditions of approval is really good boilerplate text that sort of that describes that limiting of lighting. But the problem has really been with the county enforcing those requirements, as has been mentioned. And I think that making enforcement complaint driven is a completely broken process. We have to intervene in that process. We have to stop the way that's being done, and we have to get it done right. Complaints are usually made public. If you want to do a code enforcement violation complaint, it's going to be a public complaint, so people are exposing themselves to retaliation. I suffered that myself. I suffered a felony vandalism, and I've also tried with a neighbor trying to say the lighting was bad. The county would come out and look at it even before the final approval. They would tell the guy, you got to fix it. He never did. The inspector filed it. And I called again. They say, well, it's already been filed. We can't do anything. So that whole process the complaint driven process doesn't work, and it has to be modified for that. And we know the county doesn't really want to enforce these things, so we can't leave it at that. Look at like what just happened recently, the fire station. I know those are commercial, not residential building standards, but they have this egregious lighting out there, and they were told time and time again, reminded time and time again, conditions of approval, that you can't do that, but they did it anyway. And then when we pointed it out to them, when 20 people pointed it out to them, they still fought it all the way. And to this day, they fought it all the way. So we can't really depend on that. I think, I've heard dark sky mentioned a few times. Yes, I think maybe if we put in that boilerplate text, which is already good, but it can be made better, put International Dark Sky Association compliant lighting, then that would really give somebody something to go on if like, I guess it was Deborah who had some light shining in her yard from the neighbor's house. That would really give them something solid to go on there. And I didn't realize there was an effort to rewrite and update the standards. Is that a process going on right now?
So that's going on right now, and really, frankly, we'd love for you to join us, you and Karen Wilson, if she's still within hearing distance. We do it, we schedule an hour minimum at every
work you do. I know that it's a lot.
Have, larger.
So I don't.
Well, maybe I'll speak with you offline. And so I'll stop there for Terry. I think he brought up a few important points. He was not the only one who was talking about lighting. That seems to be something that's been communicated to the MCC a number of times, a significant number of times. So my point is, let's pay attention to that section that he mentioned, that lighting should not go beyond the property, was another one in addition to the International Dark Sky compliant lighting. So that's part of it. It's interesting to me, the history. He talks about why the inspiration for developing the standards in the first place.
Yeah, I think we've heard that recently. Glenn can go into more detail, but from Deborah Lardy, a lot of the same points about the problems with the planning final, essentially, on the new houses that are built, and us not.
Yeah, the planning final and the planning review before it comes to CDRC.
I don't know. I heard from that. I'd like to know more about the review issues, but just hearing the final issues about lighting. I mean, the standards say shielded and downward directed, and it actually says it's kind of task oriented lighting. So I feel like the standards are actually pretty clear on that. But as far as the 3-story comment, I did a word search through the standards, and I didn't see any prohibition on 3 stories. And I don't think there's any understanding at our level that there is a prohibition on 3 stories. And then yeah, so we are Glenn can speak to this, but some of the properties that the CDRC had referred us to that were built not according to the approved plans, we are referring to code. And yeah.
And I've something to add about that. So for the violations of multiple properties, I discussed the issues with the code compliance section. And now their direction is that they want the neighbors to file a complaint with the code compliance section directly. And I will be able to send now the instruction to file a complaint to all the concerned parties. And now they can use the links, forms, and also use the call phone number to report any violations that they observe.
So what they've discovered, people who have tried doing that, they have the response from code compliance or has been for some, if not many, that the project was finalized and nothing can be done about it.
Yeah, if the project is final, then there will be a code compliance issue. I discussed this with Camille last week, I guess. And so if there's any violations observed after building final, there will be code compliance issues that they can be possible code violations. So if that's the situation, then neighbors can reach out to the code compliance section to report any possible violations.
So the code compliance section versus where they may have been trying to contact before, they've been contacting the inspection or the building department, and that's where they got that response. Wondering who gave them the response that the project was finalized and so nothing more can be done.
Yeah, I'm not sure who gave them that response, but the correct process to report any possible violations is through the code compliance division. And once the code compliance receive a complaint, they will put it on their list, create a record and start investigation. So that's how the code compliance section works.
Okay.
How they respond to complaints.
So this will be new and different from what we've typically been done under our section of the chair report called planning inspection requests.
So planning inspection and code compliance are 2 separate things. So planning inspection for projects that needs a final sign off on their building permit. So every time we see a plan check or a building permit application comes to planning for comments, we look at their approved their proposed plans to make sure that the plan is consistent with what was approved by the CDRC. And also they need to take pictures, and we do inspections to make sure they build their houses per the approved plans. So that's the planning inspection. And
Right.
now
So what I'm referring to is our chair report. It's kind of an informal planning inspection request where members of the CRC raise issues.
Okay.
So will we not be doing that anymore? Will we need to contact code compliance?
Yeah, that's my understanding. I think my understanding is that for any possible violation issues, neighbors or any concerned parties need to report the violations to the code compliance division. So that's a response I received from the code compliance section staff.
I see. So we'll discuss that a little further in a bit.
Okay.
I have a question about that real quick before we move on, depending on how you were going to discuss it further in a bit. So I'm on the code violation complaint form section of the county's website right now. And I see the form there, I see the email address, the phone number. It says that you have to, all fields are required to be completed, and it requires you to provide the complainant information. And one of my concerns about that goes back to what we were just hearing in the NCC meeting that Beverly was at, that when there's not the option of that being anonymous, people are put in a position of being concerned about retaliation. So I think that's a really big problem, like especially if people are able to go to a public hearing. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. When people are able to go to a public hearing, you know, either through Zoom right now or how we used to meet in person, and this was always a part of our process where we would open it up for people to bring those things up. Obviously, there's, you know, not anonymity with that either, since these are recorded calls, but it's also not something that people can go onto the county's website, from what I can tell, and find the videos. So I don't know how this information, if it's relayed to the person who is being complained about, but there's a big concern with that. I think that it kind of discourages people and makes them feel like they would be a whistleblower and sort of have negative attention or, you know, possible retaliation.
Okay, so I can speak to that, and Camille, you may you can chime in if you have anything else to add. So for the code enforcement process, my understanding is that even they have to people need to put their name on it when they file a complaint form, but it's illegal for any county staff to share the neighbors or concerned parties information with anyone. I think that's a violation of the law. So I think our county staff is aware of that, and now whenever we receive any complaints from the neighbors, we're not allowed to share their names with anyone. So I think that's against the law. So yeah, so that's my understanding. Camille, please chime in if you have anything to add.
Yeah, there may be some process for that, but it's very, very difficult and to get the full record. It may not be illegal necessarily, but there's a process to follow, I believe, and it is quite difficult to get that information. That said, I believe we do take complaints that don't have the complainant's name on them, an anonymous complaint. I don't think we throw out anonymous complaints. I think we still investigate them.
Mm-hmm. I think it would be really advantageous to have that information captured on this code violation complaint form website, where it says, like, you should be opening with a sentence that says, you know, in it, you know, to make sure that people filing complaints don't have to be concerned about retaliation, please be aware this information is not shared. Because there's nothing that says anything about that, and it does say on the form that all fields are required. So I think that if you open with that, you're going to have a lot more people that are willing to speak up and say something if they're not having to be concerned.
Yeah,
So-
I can take that to the code enforcement section to see. Yeah, so I just shared that suggestion with the code enforcement section.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Glenn.
I see somebody else actually made a comment also
In
in the chat.
the chat. Okay.
That's from Deborah Lardy.
Yeah.
Retaliation.
Oh, so Deborah has also faced retaliation for complaints. Yeah, I think this is when someone has gone face to face with their neighbor.
Okay, and now also separate, I think it's also necessary for me to talk to our IT section to make sure that complainants' names are not available to the public on our website or in the system. So I'll make sure they're aware of that and take appropriate action to respond to that concern.
Okay, and I'm wondering if Terry's notion about 3 stories was one of the iterations of the standards way back when. Yeah, I don't know where that came from. We'll have to find out. Okay, so again, I think we could probably more objectively clarify the lighting. And in the case of, I would have to read the standards a little more precisely, in the case of having the lighting not exceed property boundaries, I think I would need to look at that, and maybe that needs to be more clearly formatted. All right, I'm going to go to one more comment here. I wasn't going to, but I am, because as we see, some of our priority issues, i.e. story poles, got bumped. And this comment relates to that sort of thing. So
Get your comments before I
let
walk
me
into a
get to
particular.
it.
Self to comply with these because
Yes, okay, thanks.
Here we go.
So I was going to comment on how important it is that we, make sure that we're dealing with protecting our dark skies. And I think everybody's kind of commented on that a lot already. So I appreciate that. And I appreciate the work of the design review committee and their efforts in that area. And it sounds like there's going to be maybe some more explicit communication about how to do that as a homeowner in the future. And maybe there could be some outreach through the MCC to the community on what types of lighting is preferable. Sometimes people just, they go to Home Depot and they're not really sure what to buy. So maybe there could be some information even on the website with some suggestions. So that's a thought. The next idea is, there's just so many issues in the unincorporated area that never seem to get addressed. It could be it could be safe crossings, it could be fire danger, it could be the very confusing and dysfunctional tsunami, inundation, emergency planning. There are just so many issues. The list goes on and on. There's traffic on Highway 1, yada, yada, yada. It really seems that at this point, now that the city of Half Moon Bay has transitioned fully to district-based elections, that it's time to seriously consider becoming one city on the Coastside. I personally would prefer to have local elected representation. I'd like to be able to talk to somebody who lives locally and ask them for their help, on a city council. I think it would be more effective. And when we look at what the city staff is able to push through quickly, and compare that to all of the delays and frustration in dealing with county staff, and I don't mean that as a slight to county staff, but the fact is, the county is responsible for law enforcement and they're responsible for hospitals and many, many, many things, emergency response to COVID on a countywide basis. And I mean, their plate is full. So, we are small potatoes compared to all the various things like jails that they're dealing with. So I think it's really time to re-examine the benefits of actually having local elected representation, to, the opportunity to be able to go to a city council meeting, even if it's just Zoom, and weigh in and work with local people. So I just want to put that out there, because we now have district-based elections, that means that there would be districts in the what is now the unincorporated area. So we would have representation, and currently we have taxation without real meaningful representation. And I just think that's an unacceptable situation, and it has impacts on volunteers like yourselves who don't have really adequate staff support to do the work that you need to do. And you also don't have any power to make things happen. All you can do is make recommendations. And that's putting us in a very powerless and ineffective position. And I do appreciate your work. Thank you.
Thank you, Sabrina.
Okay, so that's a bit controversial, but I think it's timely that we heard that again. One of our CDRC's objections overall to considering incorporating with Half Moon Bay the city of Half Moon Bay has been that we do not want to become a suburb of Half Moon Bay. But I thought Sabrina Brennan raised some good points around that. Any first reactions on that?
I don't know that we should discuss that only because it is so far off the agenda. Because you're just doing your chairperson's report, I believe, right now.
This is the chairperson's report.
And you're updating us on the MCC's feedback regarding your presentation, but I would say that this is pretty far off of the recruitment topic that that was not agendized and probably should be
Right. So
saved
this is design standards
time.
and recruitment. And
Yeah,
I think I would like to have this up for discussion at a future time. How do y'all feel about that?
I don't
I
know
think
that
it's an interesting discussion, but I kind of am curious if this is really the venue for it. It seems kind of more like a grassroots conversation rather than a CDRC conversation.
yeah, it seems appropriate for the MCC, absolutely.
Okay, all right. So that's what I wanted to share in terms of the response to the presentation. More specifically in terms of action, if we would like for the MCC to support us further in any way, we maybe should talk about that or add that to the agenda at some point. Any thoughts on that?
Are you talking about in relation to the long-term planning changes?
Long-term planning, recruitment, that sort of thing.
Well, I mean, I think we kind of did our part with it.
Right.
Well, you did our part with the MCC for the recruitment side of it, I think.
Yes, I did.
I
But
was thinking maybe you could have more presence on their website because their website's really looked at very broadly by the community. So maybe we could advertise our recruitments through their website.
yes, it's on there now.
Oh.
As a result of the presentation. And do we want them, they get, as you know, they're in a position where they get to review projects before we see them. Do we want more input from them?
Have we ever got any input from them?
Yes, occasionally we'll get an email
Oh,
about a particular project.
That they've seen before we've seen
any
it.
input's helpful. So.
Yes, they always see it
Yeah.
before we see it. They have discretionary review of, they get every project, commercial or residential.
Well,
That's,
just to clarify, they get a referral, but their response is not required. It's more of a courtesy referral, so they can comment, but in the past, they've taken the position that unless it's for particularly controversial projects or particularly kind of community affecting projects, that they'll wait for the CDRC to, that they trust the CDRC to handle the potential impacts to the neighborhood and stuff like that through its own process.
right. So they could theoretically have a louder voice in that, since they tend to see it before we do.
Yeah, but their comments get routed to the project planners, right? So the applicants do get to see them. I mean, I'm of two feelings. One, of course, their input is welcome and more input is always useful. But on a project I brought before the committee recently, we got comments from MCC that didn't refer to the zoning that the project was in. And so I feel like the CDRC is, because we have architects on the board,
Better qualified.
is better qualified. Yeah. And I mean, of course, I'm interested to hear what they have to say. But I think that we're a more focused kind of place for that kind of review.
I guess big picture, I'm trying to understand where your recommendation is coming from, Beverly, because I'm not.
Because we've CDRC members in the past have requested that planners take a closer look at the projects before they come to CDRC for code compliance. So that we don't have to go through, things have improved so that we don't have to go through the basics. I don't know if we want to be in the loop for the discretionary review, that process that MCC goes to, so we can catch things earlier before they come to CDRC and have them go back to the planner. Just some more proactive, so we're not compromising on our review because basic standards have not been fulfilled.
But I
Yeah, I
think,
think I'm with Rebecca on that then. I don't really think the MCC is the qualified party to do that because they don't have the background in, you know, architecture. They probably don't have quite as much familiarity. They obviously have a lot of familiarity with, you know, the zoning standards, but it might just come down, honestly, I suspect that the reason that we're running into this problem a lot is just a staff issue.
yeah,
There's not enough staff and too many projects. And, you know, as design professionals, we definitely know how that goes, and it's easier for things to kind of slip between the cracks. It would be great if even just, you know, I don't know, I probably have brought this up before, but like if there was, I don't know if there's interns for the county or something
Well,
like that, but like
sorry,
if there's
guys.
somebody that can go through the checklist and just kind of do that administrative, like, are the sections there? Is this there? Like the big picture, you know, is the information even being provided? Because a lot of times that's been our frustration, that we've actually been missing information and we're sort of like, why did this project come to us when it's going to have to come back? And then we're put in a position of needing to do an initial review to try to save them from additional comments when they do come back. But it kind of is it kind of has an impact to all of us as resources.
We have hired, to your suggestion about interns, we have hired 3 new planners. We had a lot of planners leave the county during COVID. And we still haven't sort of reached our normal equilibrium. But the good thing about the new planners is that we're training them from top to bottom, and that we're tightening up our guidance documents for them in terms of plan check and in terms of even signing off final inspections or adding final inspections. So things should get better. Just in the interest of time.
So Camille, on that, I did let those attending the MCC meeting know that, so that I was optimistic things would be improved.
Yeah, and also regarding staff training issues, I can discuss that with Camille to see if we can do anything about it to improve the process and to help staff find issues with those projects ahead of time. So I can talk to Camille, and like next time we can circle back next time. Yeah, with options we formulate.
Okay, great. Thanks for that discussion. We'll see if we, have you seen any more applications since that would have been 2 weeks ago?
Well, I think did you get appointed yet? Not yet? Oh, okay. I know they're working on appointing Doug.
Yeah, I've been looking for it. I haven't seen anything.
No, okay. But no, I haven't received any other applications or any other positions.
So it would be good to track that. And although as chair of the CDRC, I did that presentation. Is it up to the CDRC to do recruitment, or is it the board of, a long time ago, it was established that it was the board of supervisors, but it does seem to be landing on us.
Well, we have a recruitment website, and we maintain the, we have the recruitment announcement, which has been up ongoing for years
Yes, I
now,
saw that.
actually. So in that sense, the board of supervisors handles recruitments, but in terms of like actively talking to, neighbors and stuff like that, I don't.
Or
I don't
any
think
other
they're
means.
doing that. Yeah, or like posting it on Nextdoor. I don't think even that's happening. So, I mean, word of mouth is probably the best way to recruit. Which the county staff doesn't really do. So if you guys as community members can get the word out, that's probably the most helpful.
All right, so moving on.
Beverly, on that, I do maybe have a Miramar person coming on to bug me about it, and by next meeting, I'll bother him a little bit more.
Oh, exciting.
Sort of interested.
Yeah, you know where they just, if they look up on Coastside Design Review Committee.
Yeah.
Available positions.
Mhm.
they should
Yeah,
be-
no, I know where to look.
Great,
All right, cool.
excellent, thank you.
Mark recruited me, so I've got faith in your ability to bring more people on.
Yeah. Okay, so we, in the CDRC, in the scenario where a community does not have an alt rep, we just needed to clarify the phrasing here. We had written an alt rep to be defined as either a community rep or a community alternate rep. I thought we were going to ask the alt reps to fill in so they get more time in the saddle, Camille. But that wasn't everybody's understanding in the scenario where a community does not have an alt rep. It's not just the alt reps who are being asked from any community to sit on the committee for the given project to make a 3-person quorum. Like last time it was me, I was asked as a rep. So the question is, does the alt rep mean any other rep, alternate or otherwise, or does it really mean the alt reps need to be asked so they can get more experience?
I think it's any rep that lives. So just to clarify, is the question having to do with where there isn't any rep
No.
or alt rep for that community?
Just the neighborhood rep, right? Community rep. Then in the second case, in the scenario where there is no quorum of 2 due to the absence of a community rep.
Yes.
Yeah, that's where it was specifically the community rep, not the alt rep from another.
No, I thought it was just the rep, not rep. So let's not use the word rep. Any member, any CDRC member other than the architects that lived closest to the community.
No, that's why we broke it in. It's, yeah.
Okay, so it's just the reps, not the alt reps.
Right.
I think, that's just a CDRC kind of procedure that you all voted on. So if you wanted to change it or have any suggestions, I think.
Oh, I thought.
Yeah, maybe we just want to clarify. I guess I thought that an alternate rep just meant someone who's not the rep for where we don't have a rep. Obviously, we use the word alternate also to refer
Right.
second rep for a place. So I think it's just a matter of of semantics, and we can.
Right. So the question is, what's the preference? Do you care? You just want any?
I don't have a strong feeling. I know that you like the idea of giving the alts more time, and I think at the last meeting, Katie maybe had a preference in the other direction. So
I'm gonna jump in here real quick. Being an alt, I feel like disengaged sometimes. So getting them more involved. I mean, I almost quit because of it. So, more action in the game kind of helps out.
All right. I don't have a problem with that. Katie, how do you feel about it? I think you.
Are you
were
okay
on
if
the
we
other side of that last
specify,
time.
Katie, that it's an alternate rep?
Yeah, I don't have a concern with that at all. It's definitely helpful to hear that feedback from Doug. Like, I know I started out as an alternate and I didn't participate in very many meetings until I became the, at-large architect. And each time I had to participate, because I didn't do it regularly, it did feel kind of like a new and sort of, nerve-wracking thing because you didn't remember what all the formal steps were. So that's helpful to hear. The only reason that I had kind of been leaning the other direction was that if it was going to be somebody, I guess I was kind of trying to think of it from the applicant standpoint and the community standpoint, that if it was going to be a substitute type person that's having to fill in for a spot, that they would be best served by somebody who actually does get to do it regularly and has more insight and experience with it. But at the end of the day, when it's a community rep, it's a community rep. It's not a design professional. So, I guess I was trying to see it from both perspectives, from the perspective of the applicant, but also from the perspective of the people that are the alternates on the committee.
Right. So in this case, the two architects are present. So it gives the subcommittee a little more heft. In the second case, where there isn't a quorum of two due to the absence of a community rep and one architect, then that's where I'm suggesting that the community rep, not the alt rep from another community, would fill that spot.
I think we would need to change the design review standards in order for that to happen. Because that's a quorum is 2 members and a voting quorum is 2 architects and a community rep, not 1 architect and 2 community reps.
Oh, well, what happens then when one of the architects is not available?
We should have an alt architect, but if we don't, then there is no vote. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, going back to it's almost a moot point. This really goes back to you, Mark, because now that Chris is no longer appointed and Doug is about to not be an alternate, Mark is literally the only alternate on the entire committee.
Quit.
Well, that doesn't answer what Camille was just talking about.
Yeah. No, I thought we changed that to 1 architect and 2 community representatives a year ago.
No,
No,
that wasn't how I understood it.
No, so what Camille's saying is 2 architects are required at a very minimum. So our second, I
Well,
thought
that hasn't happened though. We've had 1 architect and 1 community rep
Yeah.
for a
Yeah,
quorum.
Yeah, but we haven't had 1 architect and 2 community reps.
Right. Okay.
No, but Camille is saying that 1 architect and 1 community rep is not sufficient. We have.
No, that is sufficient. We've done that before.
It is sufficient. It is sufficient. It's
Oh,
a voting group. Sorry, maybe I misspoke. A voting group is 2 architects and a community rep, but a quorum is any of those 2 members, but it doesn't include a second rep. I guess is my point.
Right. So what I'm saying is in the scenario where there is no quorum of 2 due to the absence of a community rep and 1 architect, that's where the community rep versus the alt rep should be present, because then it's 1 architect and 1 community rep. Okay. So we're good.
But if the neighborhood alt rep is available, I think that, like, if you have an El Granada case, I would, as an applicant, much rather see the El Granada rep in that position versus the Montera normal rep.
Yeah, I mean, if we have an alternate, then we aren't having to go outside of that immediate community.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Due to the absence Doug, that actually means due to the absence of a representative from that community.
Okay.
Like if there's no primary or alternate representative.
All right.
The substitution would be the community rep and not the alt rep from the next.
Well, I thought it was just the nearest residing member.
There's 2. Yeah, community reps, the nearest residing
Community rep.
Yes.
So it's not necessarily the nearest community and then the main or the rep. It's just whoever lives closest. It's irregardless of community.
What?
It's not, I think how you said it, anyway, it's not, it doesn't matter which
It's
community.
not, it matters whether it's
it matters where they live.
Yes.
So it doesn't roll to the alt. I mean, although the alt is likely the second closest person, if the main was the closest, the alt would likely be the second closest, but not in every instance.
No, it does roll to the alt.
No, it doesn't. It just rolls to the next nearest. Okay. Maybe we need to put this in writing.
Yeah, we did. In the scenario where there is no quorum of 2 due to the absence of a community rep, alt or otherwise,
Yes.
and 1 architect, landscape,
Yes.
a community rep from another community could fill the community rep spot specifically. So it is the closest person
All,
But the
yeah,
first choice is the neighborhood alt rep.
I'm confused. It's
I
just.
think,
the
I
name.
think that this is overcomplicated. Let me try to
Yeah.
simplify.
I think we need to work on the language, Beverly, because I
Yeah,
think
the language is probably what's throwing
it's
people off.
misleading. It
So
has
maybe
nothing to
let's
do with the
ins-
community. It has to do with whichever community rep lives the closest.
Yeah, and
Yes.
my suggestion is we can talk, so Camille and I can talk about this, we can put this in writing.
Some suggestive language, yes.
Yeah,
What
yeah,
kind of
just-
Language.
Look at what's written in the chair report. That's what we reviewed before. That's what we approved before. It's in the chair report on the second page and modify that.
Okay,
That's what we're working with.
okay.
Okay, all right.
And we'll just bring that back for next time for discussion.
Mhm. Okay, great. All right. Okay, Glenn, you were going to go through the duties of the vice chair that have been split amongst you and Camille and myself. Was that approved?
So you're talking about the role of the vice chair of the committee?
Yes.
Okay, I think currently I'm hosting meetings, I set up meetings and now.
No. It's on page 3 of the chair report. And it says the duties of the vice chair have been split amongst senior planner Camille, DRO Glenn Gia, and chair Beverly Garrity. Camille to maintain the CDRC membership roster and contact list and send out term notification letters. Glenn, DRO, to forward to Beverly, chair, who in turn will forward to CDRC members notice of CDRC reviewed projects going before the Board of Supervisors, Planning Commission, and the Zoning Hearing Office. And what you said was you will speak with Camille to verify that.
Okay, give me one.
Yeah, I think we discussed that we don't have the bandwidth for that, that the CDRC members are maybe one of you all, if you find it to be a priority, can just check the agendas are posted publicly on the website, and you can look at, it's never going to go to the ZHO, except maybe for COC, but that would be before the CDRC looks at it. So it would probably just be the Board of Supervisors and the Planning Commission, and just kind of have to track, just kind of take a look at those to see if it includes a Coastside Design Review Committee, sorry, a Coastside Design Review permit. And if it does, then it's likely a project that was seen by the CDRC.
So you're saying we need to track that individually? If we-
Yeah.
Okay, and will you be maintaining the CDRC membership roster and contact list and send out term notification letters, Camille?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Glenn, for getting us the building permits issued in 2021 and 2022. Did you all see that?
Yes.
Okay, did you notice that in 2021, we hit the limit at 40?
Yeah, I did notice that. I wondered if the county knew that before this was generated.
Yeah, so in the year of 2021, please note that most of projects are accessory dwelling units, and there are some affordable housing units. So those the building permits issued for those affordable housing units and ADUs, they may be exempt. After we limit.
That was one of our
So-
questions, was if ADUs counted in that 40
Yeah,
unit
my
count.
understanding is ADU should be counting toward the total number, but once it reached the number of 40, the limit, that now we can apply some exceptions to it.
But I
So
think it's the first time, it's really the first time that the county's really hit that limit. So going forward, we did meet with our planning staff at our staff meeting, and we basically reminded all the planners to check the quota, check the current tabulation of building permits issued for that year before they're issued. And if we do reach 40, we do exempt affordable housing projects as well as ADUs, but I believe that has to be sort of like activated by the director. So we didn't exceed it last year, but we were extremely close, and we'll continue to track that going forward.
So multifamily units, is that does each unit count?
Yes.
Or is it the building itself?
No, it's the units.
It's the unit. So I know I see that new units with affordability restrictions can exceed the annual limit, but growth rate, 3-year average must not exceed 40 units per year. So then I guess that kicks in. Okay, so in 2022, you notice we're already at 27. So, and it's not necessarily due to multifamily units. Is there something that kicks in for ADUs? We're up to 15 already on that.
Yeah, she said that can be exempted.
Once we hit 40.
Yeah.
ADUs can also? How is that exemption?
It's in the LCP. It gives specific direction at what kind of projects can be exempted from the limit.
Is it true that still the total number of approved ADUs is limited to 466 in the coastal zone? So that's an upper cap of the ADU.
That maybe, I think that probably preceded the state state mandates for ADUs. So I don't know that limit is really legal.
Coastal Act and LCP supersede the state's ADU law, which prohibits these limits.
The state's ADU law applies in the coastal zone, and I do not think that there's a limit on ADUs, although I would have to check, but that was certainly codified before ADU regulations took effect.
Would you mind checking that and see which one presides? That would be great. Okay. All right. Okay, so planning inspection requests is the next section. Are you saying this should be struck? It goes away? Or do we have any updates on these 4 items that were in the list?
Yeah, I have some updates on those issues, so I can go over them one by one. And yeah, after I go over all the issues, that now I can speak to the process, the complaint file process, the complaint filing process again, just to make sure everyone's on the same page. So for the first one here, the property located at 912 Columbus. So this permit, this permit has expired, and I don't see a occupancy or final sign off issued for this permit. So I sent an email to the building official, Fred, and also the building section. I'm still waiting for the response. I followed up with them yesterday, but I haven't heard back from them regarding this. So my question to them is whether they have issued a temporary occupancy permit for this property. And yeah, so I'm just waiting for their response. And also regarding the second part of this question is about the unpermitted deck. So the deck may be constructed without a permit. So regarding that, I spoke with the code compliance officer, and his response is that the neighbor or whoever is concerned with this issue needs to file a complaint with the code compliance section so they can begin investigation. So that's that's my response to the first issue here.
Before we move forward from that, I know that this inspection request has been discussed for like at least 6 months, probably longer. And Ramel had already confirmed that there was no occupancy granted. They had not finalized their building permit. And he had also confirmed that the decks were not part of the planning approval. So they finalized their planning and then did additional work. without actually doing their building final. So I guess my concern is that it doesn't seem like it should take like, 6 months. And then code compliance to say somebody needs to submit a formal complaint to see something happen. Like this is the problem that the public is having with the county, that these kinds of hoops have to be jumped through, and that you can waste so much time in discussion knowing that there's a problem and nothing happens.
Yeah, that's definitely an issue that, so that's, so now I can, after we go over all those issues, then I can talk about the complaining process again, just to make sure everyone's on the same page. And then also we can share this with our other planners to make sure everyone's aware of this. And once the neighbor or the concerned party file a complaint, that now I can reach out to the code compliance officer to explain the background of this dispute. So hopefully they can prioritize the project. So at that time, I can have a conversation with the code compliance section just to help them understand the history of it. And if they have the bandwidth, or if they think it's necessary, and they can decide whether they can prioritize the project at that time. So there will be a separate conversation with the code compliance division.
So, so basically it doesn't matter all of the other contact that has happened and the fact that the planners have initiated a conversation with code compliance. Code compliance still doesn't want to take any action unless a member of the public brings it to their attention. You see the issue there, right? So if a planner knows there's a problem on a project, doesn't it seem like the planner should be able to have that conversation with code compliance, and that this process, the procedure, is basically, just creating roadblocks? It sort of feels like people are not going to feel compelled to follow the rules if it's so difficult for enforcement to happen. Like this is honestly, I can completely understand the frustration that we've been hearing from members of the community about compliance, if this is really what we're hearing when something has been brought up and has been under investigation for like over 6 months.
Okay.
Like the planners, there's no point in even telling the planners and informing them and training them on what to do about compliance if compliance issues have to come through the public.
Yes, that's my understanding.
I mean, this is kind of ridiculous, right?
Yeah, let's revisit that with Lisa, Glenn,
Okay.
Lisa and code. But as far as, for the illegal deck that was constructed,
I think it's multiple decks and stairs and.
okay. What
Yeah.
is the status of that, Glenn? Have they, or do they plan to tear them down? Do they plan to keep them? Are they working on plans? What's the status?
I checked with building staff, and also for staff, I didn't get any updates on that. I didn't get any updates on that.
Have we issued a stop work for the decks?
I mean, it's done. People are living there and they don't apparently have an occupancy permit.
I don't
we
think we
should
have a
issue-
stop work.
Well, there is no stop work.
I don't see a stop work.
Okay, just work with Maddie and she'll send an inspector, and if there's
Yeah.
scope work, there'll be sort of a stop work that they'll have to address prior to a TCO or the final, if we haven't already granted either of those.
Yeah, I did. I sent out.
So we can incentivize them to try to legalize them or tear them down or something. But sometimes it takes a little longer because they have to either rework the design because the setback isn't met, or say they exceed lot coverage, or they just have to get a professional to draw up their plans. So sometimes it can take a little longer to resolve.
Okay, I'll keep working with the building division, and if there's an update, then I'll share with the group.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, item 2, there is that property added a new planning. There was a new planning file added to verify the project, and the applicant has been informed. APN 047092260.
Yeah, so that's another project I look into. So I look at the workflow history in Sala. So there's no planning final, and also another issue is that the building permit has already been final.
Already been final. Oh, is this 100 Vallejo?
Oh no, this is the second APN number here. Let me find now. So it's 047-092.
260, right.
It's associated with building permit number 2019-00999. So this permit has already been finalized, and this permit has already been finalized. And similar to other issues, so if anyone observe any compliance issues, that will need to go to the code compliance division.
Do you know what the address is on that one?
The address, give me one moment.
I don't know if it's worthwhile for us to go down this list because I think we're going to get the same answer on every single one. This is very frustrating. I'm sure you guys can tell that I'm frustrated.
Right. What, do you know the address, Glenn?
It's 100 Vallejo.
Okay, so that's
100. Oh, it is
the same.
Okay, all right. So it is 100 Vallejo. All right, so your the comment was that a new planning final was added to verify the project. Is that where it stands?
No, I don't see a planning final added to this record there, and the permit has already been finalized.
Oh, so if anything is going on with this, a complaint must be filed with the code compliance section. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, and now also my understanding is that the code compliance section is already working on this. They will investigate the issue, but they don't have a final conclusion after they investigate. I think they're working on this. They're aware of this issue.
You think they are, or they are?
They are.
Because I thought we were told that it was already final, then nothing can be done.
Right. That's what it says here. Building permit has been final January 2022. Nothing can be done. Staff is aware of an additional new structure. Permits will be provided to, it does not appear to. So
There's two separate things. There's the building permit for the
Right.
house that was closed out and planning finalized it. Then they went back and did landscaping. That was not part of the original design. And this is my understanding because I wasn't in the CDRC meeting when this was initially brought up. And that's the part that we were told nothing can be done. Once the permits are final, people can kind of go plant whatever they want. The structure at the corner, however, is a structure that was built and doesn't meet zoning and is potentially a safety issue from a visibility standpoint at the corner. That's what I have heard.
And
in
it
previous
wasn't, was it
meetings.
issued a building permit or is it a small structure? So it's exempt from permits or
There's a permit issued, right?
what's that? A building permit was issued?
No.
No.
Okay.
Okay, so then we would definitely pursue the outbuilding, but if it's in
It's
the
like
wrong
a gate.
location.
It's basically like a little arbor type thing with a gate,
Oh,
but it's right at the corner and it's a
if
visibility
it's an
issue.
arbor, if it's overhead, it requires a building permit.
Yeah, it's overhead. So I think that there was
Yeah.
supposed to, probably there should have been a permit. They built it without one. And I think that that's what was brought up. That part, I think, can be addressed and is hopefully what has been communicated to code enforcement. The landscape issues are the part that we were told nothing could be done.
No,
is
I don't
this
think
in-
the county's not gonna pursue landscaping 10 years out or even 1
Right.
year out from a final building permit. I
Is
don't,
this
you know,
in
people
code
are,
compliance? Is it? Is code compliance investigating this?
Yes. I
I
think
don't,
that-
are they investigating the landscaping part of it, Glenn?
No,
Or
no,
the
no.
building?
Not landscaping, but the fence.
Just the building.
Okay, so we're done with that. Code compliance is, we don't need a status of that, right?
If I hear anything from the code enforcement, then now I will let the group know.
All right, on 846 Columbus Street, unpermitted driveway was going to be investigated. Does a complaint need to be filed?
So regarding this address, code compliance division, they're working on it. And now I think Camille knows more about it. So last time I discussed this with Camille. So Camille knows that the code enforcement is working on this. And now they're working with the applicant, the homeowner directly to address all those issues. So they're already working on this.
Okay, so code compliance is investigating that.
Well, the people who owned that lot just sold the house.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I don't think the lot was part of the sale, but this is what happens when nothing happens for so long. So now the property's changed hands, and whoever they were contacting previously is no longer, well, they might still be the owner of the parcel. I don't know, but I tried to let everybody know in previous meetings that that property was being sold. And my question had been, what happens if there's an open planning inspection, which we thought was the case. And each time we have a meeting, we just hear, we're looking into it.
I don't believe the lot has been sold.
Yeah, I think the lot was kept separate.
Right.
So presumably, is that still probably owned by the same people then, Doug?
I think it's owned by the prior owner of the house next door. So there was that house just sold, right?
Yeah.
Or, yeah, that it was solely the house that sold, not the lot.
Okay.
Okay,
Oh, I'm sorry. That was my project. When you said driveway, I was like, that's not my project. But if it's the one with the quote unquote basketball courts, it's just a paved area
Yeah.
and and the fences that were over height. It's all, the case was recently closed this week. We sent out a building. Well, basically the homeowner was told, the kinds of retaining walls that would not require a permit. He made the retaining walls comply with those kind of like the requirements for not needing a building permit. It was inspected down to the footing even by our our assistant building inspection manager, and found to be exempt from permits. And he reduced the heights of the fences as well a while back. So that case has been closed.
So what happens with paving? And this is also just for my education, like if people do paving or hardscaping.
It's
Um,
not, it
are there
doesn't
permits?
require a permit, so then it's not subject to design review.
So out of curiosity then, you end up with these properties where they are already exceeding the allowable, impermeable
Hardscape,
surfaces and
yeah.
hardscaping. But if there's no permit requirements for that, nobody's gonna ever know what they're supposed to be doing. So how is that supposed to work?
We can only review things that require a permit. We don't review things that don't require a permit. And what happens is later on, when they go to build something and they have to show their existing impervious surface, we'll know whether their facilities are undersized and need to be upsized, or whether the facilities are adequate. So we just take a look at it then.
So they basically would have them do corrections at that
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, so I just want to add to this, so just for future reference. So for any issues that's not associated with the active building permit or planning permit, that those complaints should go to the code compliance division. And now once a complaint is filed, that the code compliance division staff can start investigation. And now also for other projects, they're associated with design review approval. They require planning final. Yeah, they require planning final, and planner will look at pictures or do site visit to make sure they comply with the approved plans and any conditions of approval. And now recently I did a training, not a training, but announcement during our staff meeting. So I just gave all the planners reminder that planning final needs to be added to any records that's associated with the design review approval. So that reminder was made, and yeah, so that's the so if there's any violations observed after planning final or after the building permit final, and now all those issues will need to go to the code compliance division. So just to summarize this a little bit.
Yeah, but we'll check in with Lisa as far as whether we need the neighbor to, whether we need a community member to file the complaint, or whether we can take them on ourselves. I think they have a good point about that.
Okay, yeah.
In the interest of time, Beverly, do you think it makes sense to finish up your chairperson report and then get to the next item and skip the design review standards update?
I do for today. Is everyone okay with that?
Yeah, I agree that makes sense.
Yeah, it's getting close to time.
Yeah. Okay, the chair report is completed. I'd like to open up the session to oral communications from the public.
Okay, per chair, we're now opening public comments for oral communications for matter not on agenda. If your hand is raised, your name will be called for this agenda. I will lower your hand after you speak. Those joining by telephone can press star 9 to raise and unraise your hand. Press star 6 will mute or unmute your microphone once you are given permission to speak. I don't see any raised hands, and regarding previous communication with Deborah. So Deborah, would you like to speak? If you would like to speak on any items that's not on the agenda, please raise your hand. Okay, I'll unmute Deborah just in case she has anything to say.
Unmute.
Yeah, Deborah, I just asked you to unmute. Okay, so
I am not able to find the hand, so forgive me for not raising my hand here. I had submitted a letter and I understood that was going to be addressed at the meeting. Is that true? I'm a little confused.
This is the time for you to address it, Deborah.
Okay, so you're not going to read the letter or the specifics?
No, since you were here, I'd like for you to speak, represent yourself.
Okay, there were a couple of issues I mentioned in my letter. The first one was notification of the meetings. I've observed over time that there's been a history here of the postings for the meetings being not in compliance with the zoning requirements, that they be obviously posted in a conspicuous manner on the edge of the property. And I sent a photograph of the one across from my house that was put in the middle of the field, was not at the edge of the property, could not be read from the road. And it was deja vu for me because we had a project here next door to me where the posting was hid and no one knew that the meeting was happening. It was prior to when they used to send it, prior to them sending out the notifications in the mail that had a map attached. So you had no, basically, there was no way to know from the mail where the development was going to be other than a project number. And so I understood that, and they had started confirming where the posting had been done properly at some point, and that seems to have stopped being done. So I would like that addressed. And the second issue was a house across the street from me that was approved with a metal roof. I also sent a photograph of that, which is obviously reflective. You can see the images in the roof. And I attended the meeting where that was approved, and I think I remember the committee asking the developer if the roof was reflected, and he said no, yet it's obviously a reflective roof. And I'm concerned that this was approved, and I'm wondering how that can be better defined in the future so that we don't have reflective roofs going in, which are not recommended. And the other thing was the dark sky lighting. Manufacturers are slapping that term on lighting fixtures, but they obviously don't comply with the dark sky requirements. And the county doesn't seem to have adopted a definition for dark sky, which makes it awkward to try and know what that means. So I'm wondering what the design review committee is doing to make that more specific. And it would be great if that was actually done on a countywide level, because just downward directing the light doesn't work if you also have a bright bulb that's horizontally shining into adjoining properties. So those were the issues in my letter, and I was told that it would be addressed at the meeting today. And again, I got an email from Glenn suggesting that I submit a complaint, but it's kind of the same old with that. I don't want to start having issues with my neighbors by submitting a complaint when these issues should have been addressed and mitigated at the design review level. And that's my goal here, is to see the processes and procedures that the county has in place, solving these problems so that residents don't have to complain about their neighbors and be the policeman for what the county is doing in our communities. It's really bad for community relationships, as you can imagine.
Deborah, thank you for your comments. Yes, to validate your expectation, it was my intention to raise it in our section on permit inquiries, but as you can see that the policy has just changed as of, we were notified today in this meeting that a complaint must be filed with the code compliance section. So thank you for speaking up, as opposed to having it raised at our CDRC meeting and having the DRO go to the code compliance section. So thank you for bringing up this issue. It sounds like the current procedure is that a complaint, you as the complainant must file a complaint with the code compliance section. And as we heard, this has become it's important for staff to hear how frustrating this is for our community members to feel like they are, the onus is on the community members to raise these issues. And then, as we heard, it takes a very long time for these issues to get addressed. So we'll be hearing more about this, Deborah.
I just wanted to say that there seemed to be a considerable ambiguity on the privacy issue with complaints. I heard, I think, there doesn't seem to be specific policies around protecting complainers, so-called complainers. I hate that word. Informers might be a little bit more positive.
So we'll be hearing more about that at our next meeting. Staff, Glenn and Camille are going to find out a little bit more about that.
Yeah, in the meantime, so I suggest that if you would like to file a complaint, like as soon as possible, you can fill out a form and send to the code enforcement section without putting your name in there if you're worried about privacy issues.
I don't know, will the form go through without a name on it, Glenn?
Yeah, Camille said that they're not kicking back, complaint forms that don't have contact information listed. So it does say on the form, all fields must be completed, but Camille did say that they are still reviewing those forms, even if you do leave your contact information blank.
So in the meantime, Deborah, I urge you to do that instead of just having it be in this email. So go to the code compliance and fill out that form, and we'll hear, but don't put your name in, remain anonymous. And we'll hear more about this from Camille and Glenn at our next meeting about this process.
About what process? The complaint?
The complaint compliance process. But in the meantime, this is what's being asked of the citizenry of the Coastside is to fill out this complaint form, but leave your name off.
And also another thing, issue I need to point out is the address provided in your letter. The address is 1216 Birch. I searched for any design review records in our database, but I don't see any design review permit record associated with this address. So at the time you file, a complaint, please make sure the address is correct.
Wait a minute, Glenn. I think there may be clarification for that.
The address is 1212.
1212.
1212. Thank you, Mark.
Yeah, so at the time you file your complaint, please make sure the house number is correct.
Okay,
So are you going to respond to the notification issue?
Yeah, regarding notification issue, I discussed this issue with Camille. So we are going to talk to staff member when we receive agenda requests, and we'll talk to staff members just to make sure that the notices are posted at visible locations as required by the code. So that's something we're going to monitor.
So who's gonna, I'm sorry, who, I didn't quite, you're gonna do what?
We're going to meet, or we're going to talk to staff whenever we receive agenda requests for any design review projects. So at the time staff receive pictures of the site posters from any applicants, I will work with staff to make sure that the posters are posted at visible locations.
Okay, but there doesn't seem to be a long-term procedure for this. The design review officers turn over, and then these things that you're doing stop happening.
Yeah, so I think that's a valid concern, and now I can discuss with my supervisor Camille further. When we can see what we can come up with to ensure long-term compliance.
Beverly, it's a training issue. I think, you know, planners need to communicate it consistently to the applicants with the instructions of what to do with this poster. We send them the poster. We can also send them the instructions of what to do with the poster. And then we can start requiring photos of the poster perhaps prior to the meeting. I'm kind of hesitant to add any more to this process, but if
that's a good
clearly-
idea, though. I think if that's
Yeah.
on the checklist, like if it's as easy as you don't get on the agenda until you complete this checklist, people will be incentivized to do what they're supposed to do. And if they have to provide a photo verifying that it's, you know,
posted in a
appropriate-
visible location.
yeah, a visible
Right.
appropriate location that can be viewed from the street, right? It's supposed to be visible from the street. I think it should go on the checklist. So I just wanted to get that on record, that would be a great way to do it. And honestly, it's not the fault of the planners or the CDRC or the community. If the applicant does not complete the checklist,
Well, you
then they
don't get a
don't get on the
poster.
agenda.
No, you don't get a poster until you're on the agenda, Katie. Because it has to have the
Oh.
agenda item.
Oh, yeah, chicken and the egg, that's terrible. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, because, you know, how are we going to tell them the meeting date if there isn't a set meeting date? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And also we need to confirm this.
So it's just a training issue, and we'll work with the applicants to be more consistent with it, and even possibly get pictures of it and ask them to move it if it's too far. I'm even thinking of just putting the directions directly on the poster so they can't miss it.
right. Things have improved quite a bit with the photos or the scale docs coming through. So that's been pretty consistent. So maybe instructions to the planner should be, you know, and take a photo of the posting on site. Camille?
Yeah, we'll think about it. We'll figure out what the best way to do it. I think that in a way that honestly, like, doesn't just add another thing to this process. I'm trying to maybe just make it more straightforward by putting the instructions on the poster, but we'll certainly think about it.
Yeah, we'll work on it, and now we'll possibly draft something in writing, and next time we can circle back. So this is on my to-do list ready. So next time we'll see a better picture of how this will move forward, and what's going to change, and how we're going to improve the notification process.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you for public comments. Ready to close public comments and move on to the first item on the review agenda. Are we ready?
Motion to close?
Wait, don't need a motion. No. Are we ready, Glenn?
Yeah, we're ready. We're at 3:06 right now, so we're ready for the first item on the agenda.
Okay, so, all right, so oral communications have been closed. We are moving to the first item. To review on the agenda, do we have the owners and applicants and all essential parties?
We have Ed and Sundar. They're here. I'll unmute them.
Okay. All right, I'm ready to begin. It's a Moss Beach project. The owner, Akamapat and Hima Sundara. Ed Love is the applicant. File number PLN 2021-00267. It's the Reef Point Road, Moss Beach location, 037-123-560, assessor's parcel number. This is a consideration of a design review recommendation for the construction of a new 2-story, 2,743 square foot, single-family residence with a 517 square foot attached 2-car garage on an 11,586 square foot legal parcel per subdivision X 6E3202. Associated with a hearing level CDP, the project involves the removal of one significant tree and only minor grading. CDRC will not render a decision, but will make a recommendation regarding the project's compliance with the design review standards. A planning commission public hearing will take place after May 12, 2022. The project is appealable to the California Coastal Commission. The project was scheduled for continued consideration from the April 14th, 2022 meeting, deemed complete April 22nd, 2022. Project planner, Glenn Gia, BJIA at smcgov.org. Ed, would you take us through the modifications?
Yes. The first one, which seemed to be the biggest concern a month ago, would be the sight lines from the upper story to the house at 165 Reef Point.
Katie, would you like to share? The sight lines are in the new documents.
Yeah, sure, I can share.
Thank you.
Can everybody see my screen?
Okay, good. Thank you.
Great.
So we have reduced some of the areas of glass. You're not showing that one, but that's okay. That's on A2.02. And this A2.04, right, areas there on the left side of the house, which face towards the west. And then if we can go back to the sight lines. So what we're proposing are, with the help of Casey at Blue Sky, 6 wax myrtle trees, 36-inch box myrtle trees, just inside of the fence, which would block views from the deck and the windows of the second floor down into the house at 165. And you can see in the section that the tree does block the view. And in the plan, you can see the area that's screened by the trees. Casey suggested a 36-inch box tree or box trees for the 6 of them, and that they be planted as soon as possible so that they get well established. And when the house is built and occupied, that they will be effective in screening the views down into the house at 165. Any questions about that, or should we move along here?
Why don't you do the full present and then we'll ask you questions after.
Okay. The next item was the garage roof. The garage being so predominant. And if you look at A2.01, thank you, you'll see that we've lowered the back edge of the garage roof quite a bit. It was up under the windows on the second floor before. So we've diminished the presence of the garage quite a bit. To the right, you can see the stone that's on the walls underneath the landing and the stairway that we've introduced. Plus, there's some stone all the way around where the stairs go up to the patios on the other elevations. You can see that off on the right and the one down below that faces west and southwest. The next thing on the with the colors and materials, Raj and his wife have decided to Hema the fascia and the gutter and the trim are endless sea, sort of a medium blue color. And so that in combination with the gray stucco and the stone down below and the darker roof and the darker PV panels, we think offer some variety as far as the color and breaking up the vast area of gray. And the last point that I have is the entrance, which would be on a 2.01. We've moved the entry door, and so that it's obvious from somebody approaching the house where the entry is, and of course the stairs lead right up to it. Right, correct. So those seem to be the issues from last month that we've addressed, and we've made the modifications accordingly.
And the windows as well.
Yes,
Do you want to point out those changes?
right. We looked at that once. We can look at it again. A 2.02. Right where the where you have the arrow, the windows have been they were Florida glass, Florida ceiling, and they've been the sills have been lifted up. So we reduced them on that side of the house.
Okay. All right, Ed, I do have a question for you. A couple of questions.
Mhm.
On this view right here, these windows level 2, do these windows create a privacy issue on the second level living room?
Well, I don't think so with the wax myrtle trees. That's where the sight line is from those windows.
Oh, is that where you chose to demonstrate the sight line?
That's part of it, yes.
Can we just pop over there again? Right over there. I
Right.
see. Okay, all right.
Casey, can you give some insight as well, Casey? I mean, you are the landscape designer, so you came up with this design. If you can give some insight, that'll be helpful, just to make sure.
Mhm. Okay. My next question is the ridge height of the bedroom, the master bedroom roof. What is the slope on that? Is it
The
the
ridge.
same? What is the slope of the roof over the master bedroom on level 2?
I've got the roof plan pulled up with the slopes.
Yeah,
So one and
1
and
5/8
5/8.
in a foot.
1 5/8, the other one is 3/4. Is there a reason why this needs to be sloped more intensely?
Well, because of the PV panels.
Is that, it can't be sloped less than that?
Well, the closer you get to the latitude of where we are, the more efficient the PV panels will be.
I see.
And that's as high as we can go,
1 and
so that we
5/8.
push it up to the max to get the best exposure for the PV panels.
Okay. All right, PV panels. All right. Last time we discussed having the stone, if you go to the elevations, Katie, the entry elevation. Yeah, well, up above, right. We discussed that there was stone up above and on level 2, where was that a faux fireplace?
Right,
Right, and you've taken that off? Did you intend to take that off? Because
yes,
talking about the stone actually going over 2 levels from top to bottom. And yes, it's more powerful when it's lower.
Beverly, are we in clarifying questions right now?
I was just wondering if that was intentional to remove that.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. I'll leave the rest for later. Anyone else have clarifying questions?
Yeah, I do have one clarifying question. I see the full height stone on the first level here. And then I know that on the other side, it wraps over here. And then this end wall doesn't have any stone on it. And I wanted to know how those transitions were going to happen at the corner. It seemed a little bit of an interesting decision because we've got it low here and low over there. And I do like how this sort of draws your eye to the entry. I do kind of still lean toward the idea of, having that be double height if it is meant to be a wayfinding thing. I would honestly be okay with it just wrapping the base if there's no fireplace expression. But if this is the design intent, I was just curious about these transitions at the corner of this massing.
Well, the stone at the ends, in most cases, I think it ends at an inside corner. Otherwise, there would be a cap there of some kind at the end.
So this is stone along here and
Yes.
then not here.
Right, correct.
So this is an outside corner.
Right.
And then this one, I guess, the stone is along the bottom, right?
Yes.
And then I guess, does it stop right here? They're sort of angled views, so it's a little bit harder.
Yeah, it is because of
To
the different angles
interpret.
of the house.
Yeah.
But in most cases, it's an inside corner, except for the one you pointed out. And that would have a cap on the end.
I feel like I was just looking at a different view. Where's the other view that shows the ramp? Maybe it was a section. Bear with me for a second. Let's see. Is in my mind. Oh, okay, there we go. There's a view. I wonder if I did that. Did I move A2 to a 202 up there? I knew there was another sheet in there somewhere. There we go. Okay. So then this stone comes to here and is another outside corner. And then this is that facade that's just stucco.
Well, that would turn the corner. I think that's a planter there, and that would butt up against the side of the corner of the house.
So I don't see that happening over here. This is that, I think this is actually a flush transition possibly, which would be kind of interesting to detail, I guess.
Well, I think when we got down to details, we would set that back a little bit. So instead of just having it flush with that.
Yeah, I mean, the stone would be proud because it's going to be a thicker
We
veneer.
would just push it back a few inches so that it does stop against the wall.
Yeah, so I guess we can talk about this more in discussion. One more clarifying question that I had was about the fascia right here. Is this intended to be the same blue?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, I think that's all I had for clarifying questions.
Okay, I just have one to add, which is I just wanted to ask where you've raised the window sills to protect privacy at the rear, what the height is of the new sills. Yeah.
The which now?
Or even and on the other side of the in cut there, yeah, where you have the doors flanked by windows. What's the height of those window sills? Are you gonna just dimension it for me in Bluebeam, Katie?
Yes, I am, but I had to get my mouse over there to tell you that. Sometimes it's faster than.
Mm-hmm. Oh, quite high. Okay. So almost 5 feet.
It's gonna be around 5 feet.
Okay. That's all I have for clarifying questions. Thanks for covering the stone one, Katie.
So we should open up for public comment if there is any, and then we'll go into discussion. Glenn? Glenn?
Oh, sorry, I was on mute. Yeah, so I'll open for public comments. So per the chair, we're now opening public comments for item number 1. No correspondence was received. I will ask those members of the public who wish to comment on this project to click the raise hand feature to raise your hand to speak on that agenda item. I will lower your hand after you speak. Those joining by telephone can press *9 to raise and unraise your hand. Pressing *6 will mute or unmute your microphone once you are given permission to speak. Okay, so I don't see any raised hands. For those on Zoom, are there any other person who wish to speak on this item? Item number 1. If so, I will provide a few more seconds in case there are others that would like to raise their hands to speak on this item. Okay, I see a raised hand. Give me a moment. So I see an iPad user raise her hand. So once you unmute yourself, please state your name, address, and email address. Thank you.
Debbie Pizzo,
Hi,
165. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. 165 Reef Point Road. Email is dpnopc@gmail.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Your comment, Debbie?
My comment is what we spoke about last month about the privacy. And I see where they're going to be planting the trees, more trees than were anticipated, but there's no guarantee, but I'm still concerned about the privacy with our bedroom and bathroom. I mean, can you hear me?
Yes, we can
Oh,
hear.
good.
Okay.
Oh, good. Go ahead.
Yes, excuse me, this is her husband, Steve. I had a couple questions for Ed.
Yes.
Ed, you had mentioned that you're going to plant 6 15-foot trees. Are they going to be 15 feet at the planting, or they'll eventually reach 15 feet?
No, that's
Is
the
what-
plan. That a 36-inch box tree is one of the largest trees that you can buy for the plant.
Go ahead, Casey. Casey, you're on mute. We can't hear you.
No,
Casey, you're on.
we can hear. We
Yeah,
can
we
hear
can hear
Ed.
you.
No. Casey is the landscape designer. He probably has the best answer. I just want to make sure he can. I think he's not enabled to unmute. If somebody can unmute him, that'll be good.
Oh, Glenn, can
What's
you?
the name?
Casey,
Casey? Okay. give me-
Kenneth Coverdell. He's been on all along since 1:30.
There you go.
Okay.
All
Casey,
right, some freedom. I can talk. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so the plan, the Pacific wax myrtle actually gets much higher than 15 feet. But, to buy a tree that size and that is going to be accordance with our landscape plan in the future, we're selecting a 36-inch box. That means it has a 36-inch root ball. It's probably going to be around 10 to 12 feet to start, and it's going to grow to about 20 feet tall. Now, the plan here is to plant them as soon as we have permissions to, build this project. So we're going to start that process of allowing the tree to grow prior to the construction and prior to the building of the actual house, so that by the time they get to move in, you're going to have enough privacy and their sight line is going to be blocked into your master bedroom.
And bathroom as well?
And bathroom, yes. Most
Okay,
importantly,
That's,
bathroom.
that's
Yes.
more importantly, the bathroom, yes, because that's where the big window is and that you can see and the other question, I had another question is, there's 6 of them. How much area is that going to cover? As
You
far
can
as in
you can
relationship
see
to our
you,
house?
yeah, you can see a great relationship of how and what the size is going to be like right there in the
Okay.
drawing that they represented. The
So
great
it's
thing
gonna-
about the great thing about the Pacific wax myrtle, it's very upright in form, so you're not going to be dealing with massive spread into your property, right?
Oh, okay, okay. So it's gonna cover, it kind of looks like it covers a good portion of the house, our house. Doesn't cover the whole area, but it covers, I guess, up to maybe where the entrance is of our house.
Yes,
So,
absolutely. Yeah, create the most privacy and really, to protect the master bedroom and most importantly, the bathroom window.
In
Yeah,
the plan, in the plan view there, it says privacy area. That's the area
That's the whole area?
that will be completely screened by the trees.
Okay, so it looks like it goes as far as down as to where our entry is for the front door.
It goes
like
over
it's
to the
just a-
garage, actually.
Well, the garage, where our patio is, the garage is on to the right of that, so that area you see to the left of that little patio area is really where our front, looks like our front entrance, so, yeah, it's pretty good, yeah, there's our garage there, right? So it goes pretty far. So I have one last question. What happens, I guess Ken is pretty sure it's gonna cover, what happens after the house is built and everything? We still have a privacy issue, but there's no recourse at that point, right? So I have to bank on Ken and everybody that guarantee me that that's gonna give us our privacy.
Ken, can you speak to that? I mean,
Yeah,
trees do well in the climate and on the coast and so
it's a
on.
native tree and it does really well on the coast and it creates a really nice privacy screen. So, it's plant material and I think that, we're very confident in its success and its form.
Okay.
So, that's kind of where we're at.
And if it doesn't do it, then there's no recourse for me.
Well, I think that just as much as you want privacy, that, the Sundaraj family wants privacy as well, right? So I think that if one of them, dies, then they'd be inclined to replace it anyways.
I can personally guarantee that, absolutely, we want to be good neighbors. We don't want to intrude into your privacy and vice versa. And something dies, it has to be upgraded. I'm going to be we are going to be more than happy to actually fix it for you. It's a mutual interest for both our parties. So.
Of course it is. I appreciate that. But more concern would be, like I said, with our bathroom and our bedroom, and then we have a walk-in closet with the window. That's the concern, that area of the house.
Understood. Yeah.
And you can understand that. I mean, especially the bathroom and of course the bedroom too.
Yep, absolutely.
I'd like to speak to this a little bit also, actually. I really appreciate that the neighbors are coming together to discuss solutions on this, and I definitely appreciate that the applicant got a landscape designer involved to make the right selections. Landscape screening is one of the options and suggested approaches for handling privacy in these issues and in the design guidelines. And I would like to say that at the end of the day, even after they make this effort, if for some reason the two of you are still concerned about your privacy, you do still have a lot of options that you can implement on your property to add other layers of protection. So you do still have a lot of options and control that you can handle sort of on your side of the fence. But I think the fact that the applicant is planning to plant these trees early and that they'll have a lot of time to grow and mature during construction, I think that that's a very good approach and a good solution that will also be nice for you to look at.
Agree.
Okay, excellent. All right, Glenn, are there any more public comment?
Okay, I have now caught up on all raised hands for speaking on this item. For those on Zoom, are there any other persons who wish to speak on this item? Item number 1. If so, I will provide a few more seconds in case there are others that would like to raise their hands to speak on this item. And as a reminder for those joining by phone, please press *9 to raise your hand. Okay, there are no more raised hand for this item. Please indicate if you like to close public public
Yes,
comment. Beverly.
please close public comment. We will go into discussion. I really appreciate all the effort made in this short time frame from the applicant to satisfy the requirements of the standard. I think the largest knothole to get through now is maybe the stone. And I'd like to raise one more issue related to that. The stucco wall that was introduced adjacent to the garage at the edge of the upper deck. That seems like a fairly large mass, and I was wondering what the inspiration was for that.
Beverly, are you asking Ed or are we in discussion now?
I'm asking Ed. And then I'll ask you and Rebecca a question around that. You see the large stucco wall? Yes.
Yeah, I'm looking at the plans to see what that is.
Is there a specific reason why that wouldn't be the floating deck, the cantilevered deck, to minimize the massing on that?
This wall.
That's right here. It's that wall with the planter. Right next to the entry.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a wall that
Right.
is the back wall, and actually it's going to be a planter.
Part of it is
For the whole thing.
Well,
I'm showing the plan view of that right now. So you
yeah, the
Yeah.
wall cap itself, the wall is about twice as wide along the side of the garage and goes all the way down to grade, the stucco wall.
So are you asking if they could terminate it here and have?
Yeah,
this be
I'm
glass?
wondering if that could be minimized. It seems like a large and not very attractive mass. I don't know that you'd want to emphasize that.
Would they otherwise though see the
Well, that's a
side that
guard. That's a guardrail for the landing, partially.
Right, which you have rails for the landing around the rest of the perimeter of the deck that are much lighter. It's cantilevered, the deck is cantilevered, it has glass railing.
Right.
Would you consider truncating that wall? Or?
Well, the idea was to have dirt in there and they have.
Right, it doesn't cover the entire plant. It exceeds the length of the planter. You see that on the
Beverly's asking if you can make this part glass.
more glass to at least truncate it that much, and then the planter.
Oh, the part that overlooks the roof of the garage. Yeah,
Right.
that could be glass. Yeah.
Yeah, and all the way, if you look in the elevation, the wall is all the way down to ground. It's a very large mass. It's a different elevation, right?
Well,
right.
this is the elevation and basically it's the wall of the garage.
Yeah, so it could
continuing
be
up.
stucco underneath the
So-
horizontal line.
Right,
And the
right.
rest of it can be glass, an extension of the glass on the landing.
So this would be the
That would
landing.
be-
There you
that
go.
would be the
This would be
landing.
glass.
And
Right.
then it would cantilever, except until it got to the planter.
Right. We didn't have time for Casey to put beautiful plants in there.
Right, right. No. So you would truncate the planter wall.
Right.
Okay. And then if you look at the other elevation, and Katie and Rebecca, this is the question for you. Not on another page, the elevation of this wall. Do you see it underneath the stair? So it would now not be quite as massive. Would you consider not doing the full height stone behind the entry stair, and rather, how do you feel about this, Katie and Rebecca, wrapping the low line foundation stone around the entire house? since you're not going up to the second story with the stone at the old fireplace location, would you consider wrapping the stone at the foundation line at the height of?
So I think it would probably be best, our time would be best served if we can do our internal discussion and think about cohesively as a committee what we want to suggest and then ask Ed.
Right, so I'm asking you and Katie now how you feel about it.
So
Wrapping.
I think that the stone stopping on the underside of the balcony, I like that it draws interest to the entry, and I like that the entry is more visible and the secondary entry isn't. So I think the wayfinding is definitely improved. I think that if it's going to go up this far, then my instinct would be for it to go all the way up.
Just in that center section between the two windows where it used to, or all the way up the whole entry?
Well, that's where the transitions get interesting. So based on the transition that's happening here and here, my preference would be to just not even bother having the stone go all the way up and just wrap the base consistently.
Yes.
I don't know about the quantity of stone, if this additional stone is enough to basically wrap. Are you suggesting it wraps everywhere around the garage and everything? Or just it can go from here all the way around, it would wrap here, it would
Yes.
come back, and it would go, if it goes along here,
Right.
we've got that same transition issue.
Well, then maybe it wraps around the garage as well. So
then it comes back to here, and it becomes the question of where to stop it.
Yeah, it either
So for
wraps
me
around
personally, I think at a minimum, I would like to see the stone right here.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would solve these transitions.
Outside corner issue.
And not the full height behind the stair, not the full height of level 1.
I wouldn't probably do the full height.
Right, that's what I was
Rebecca,
suggesting.
what do you think?
Oh, well, I don't have a problem with the stone being full height to the underside of the deck where it is, because I think it does accentuate the entry and offset the stair and make the stair feel kind of special. I agree. I don't like to see stone veneer pulled off at an outside corner, although it could be just the base height continuing across underneath the line of those windows. I think that would work for me. I mean, I can see an argument for bringing the stone all the way up. I can see an argument for wrapping the stone all the way around, but my feeling is that I don't have a problem, aside from the outside corners issue, with the way it's shown now, and that the applicant has done pretty much everything that we asked, and I feel like the applicant has really successfully responded to our concerns from last time. So I wouldn't want to be too prescriptive.
Yeah, I agree. I think that if we add the stone here, that's going to help. And I think that, it's going to have a ripple effect if we start trying to carry it around too far. This didn't particularly bother me, but if it's something that you feel strongly about, Beverly, I don't object to it either.
Yeah, likewise. I mean, I think the only condition I would put would be that the stone veneer terminate at inside corners. Or to say that it wraps.
Yeah, like this one would be continuing flush. It's really just this one corner.
Yeah.
Is that a bedroom, by the way?
Down below it is, yeah. And I was looking at this protrusion right here because that would be beautiful to wrap that part in the stone. And then maybe the window sort of conflicts with how this transitions, but if where's my tools?
Can you go to the second floor?
If this part was the stone, basically, then I think that would sort of emphasize that verticality of the entrance. I do like how it offsets the stair. What were you asking me to go to?
Oh, just the second floor plan, just to see where the bump out is. Yes, right.
Yeah, the only thing is this doesn't happen below, so it would be sort of transitioning at a facade, but I prefer a transition at a facade than the corner, honestly.
Yeah, could transition it in inside corner, and then of course there's the deck breaking it up from there to below, so it wouldn't have to be.
Yeah, so you can see the dash line right here. This is that massing above.
So you're saying, that's not, well, you're saying to add the stone to the bump out?
We're just kind of discussing different ways to handle that
Uh-huh.
part of the facade, because
Yeah, I mean, I
having it
think
go
that would, that
all
would
the
be
across.
great.
Yeah, it could stop right here, and then that, basically the stone that's not being used here and here is getting reallocated at the base here
Mhm.
and above, and so ideally it wouldn't really have a big cost impact.
Can you go back to the elevation? I mean, but then it would be, if it didn't continue the full width on the lower wall, then it is just kind of a plain and plain transition.
Yeah.
I think it could be narrower at the top also. It could be on the bump out at the top. I mean, there's so little wall there actually, since it's almost all glass.
Are you saying to have this be wider like that?
No, I'm saying to have it be narrower on top and as it is below.
So like this, where the red is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd be okay with that. But again, for me, I don't know. It could all be suggestions for me. I feel like, I bet Ed spent a lot of time looking at this. I feel like I could spend hours playing around with like, is it here? Is it there? Is it here? Is it there?
You're right.
Yeah. So I would leave it, personally, I would leave it to his discretion, although I agree with you. I like the idea of it coming up the way you're suggesting. Yeah.
So the suggestion you're saying is to add stone
At the entry bump out.
At the entry bump out at the three sides, right?
At the three sides, and I think we would.
I would condition this.
Condition adding it beneath those bedroom windows on the first floor.
Yeah.
Condition just adding the stone to the foundation of the lower bedroom. Condition truncate the planter wall. Truncate the planter wall, cantilever deck. Okay.
I just have a sort of a question about the myrtle. Is that what it is? The trees being proposed for privacy at the back. I guess so I typically recommend that people do not install landscaping until after construction is complete because there's so much heavy equipment. I don't know if the team feels that it can be safely installed and that there won't be equipment going over the roots and damaging it. 36-inch trees are, I think that's a really generous way to address it by buying and installing such mature trees. So that the privacy issue can be rectified quickly. I wonder what the mature height is of those trees and whether that species is going to end up blocking the applicant's view out further.
I think, Ken, you said that the mature height is what, 10 to 12 feet?
No, it's about 15, 20, but it's a very easily pruned tree. So once it meets the height, then it'll be able to be maintained at that height.
What's your opinion, Ken, on about having those trees freshly planted and construction?
I think, probably when this gets approved, I don't know, how long that's going to take, but it might be closer to a rainier time, which is great for planting. And then, it's every day contractors deal with site and tree protection. So I have I have all the confidence in the world that whatever contractor builds this house is going to know how to protect the trees.
Okay. Thanks.
All right. Well, any more discussion?
No.
I'd like to talk about stone a little bit.
Yes. Yes.
So this is a modern house. And usually if we do a more traditional house, very often we will use a stone wainscoting around the whole foundation of the house. And the idea of that is to sort of mimic how they used to be in the old days, and it looks very nice. Now, this is a modern house, and the only place where I think we should have the stone is where there are steps and a patio and a planter and those kind of things where the stone should be. And that's, for a modern house, you don't have stone foundations anymore. So I just wanted to throw that out as a concept into the discussion of stone.
I can definitely appreciate that. I guess the challenge sometimes when you're dealing with modern placement of materials rather than the traditional placement is a lot easier because it's much more formalized in how it's placed. Sometimes that can leave the placement of the materials feeling a bit more arbitrary. And that was my concern with this, was that some of it felt a bit arbitrary to the point where we were also seeing these difficult transitions. Did you want to maybe talk to us about that? Did you have any thoughts or concerns about the transition at an outside corner or having this be in the same plane?
Well, like I said, on the one on the right there, it wouldn't be in the same plane. We would push it back a few inches so it would butt up against it. And behind the stairway, the stone there was just to accentuate the stairway. I guess the stucco could be carried out so that there was a detail there where you didn't see the edge of the stone. There would be different ways of handling that. Not a detail that we've addressed so far, but we would.
I think your rendering too, Ed, of, showing what it's going to look like landscaped, softens a lot of these very intense facings of the house, right?
Right.
So I think looking at this, rendering here really allows you to kind of imagine what it's going to look like in real life.
So I think you make a good point too, about it being a modern house. Obviously, there's not like a real water table there, and that's part of the reason I think I don't feel like it needs to carry around the whole house. I think Katie's on the same page with me, though. I mean, yeah, if there were a detail showing how the outside corner was going to be treated, I could be open to that. Personally, I really feel like it belies the thinness of the material when you have a stone veneer that just stops and you can see the edge of it. And it feels applied, which of course it is. But so when you wrap the corner, you get more of a sense that it's got the like solidity that you psychologically want to associate with stone.
Well, if it's a full wall under the stair and it's only on the foundation by that bedroom, you still see the thickness of the material from the.
Right. Yeah.
So that doesn't really solve that problem.
I mean, sometimes I've seen it solved with the stone wrapping a few inches, although personally I don't love that. I think the idea of pulling the stucco out so that there's some kind of a catch or a trim detail on the stone facing side, that would work.
There could be a pilaster, just an extension of the right angle wall to butt up against.
But again, is that too traditional? You have so many occasions where a pilaster.
I just don't want to see the edge of the stone, it looks like this big solid thing. And then, so I don't know, Katie, if you're on the same page. I think if there were a corner detail developed to address that would suffice for me.
Yeah, I have the exact same reasons for being concerned about that transition. I think that it does sort of tell the naughty tale of it not being kind of the authentic material, because it's a veneer. And when I see an application like that, it feels like it wasn't looked at in 3D, and that they had two separate elevations and didn't kind of, it feels like sometimes you work out that corner detail when you run into it in the field, but we're looking at it, and I think that this is the time to resolve it.
What if there was a metal corner like the posts on the stair or the railings? Just to break the materials up.
Yeah, have it die into it kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be open to that. I think it's not ideal when it's only in one location, but that's more of a matter of personal preference. And if that happens, then you're okay. Like, you know, I get the point that if it doesn't wrap here, then you still see this
Right.
exposed edge. I think that we're gonna want to have it conditioned if your solution for the base is that this patio will be pulled back a little bit and
Yes.
it will terminate before that corner.
Right.
Then I think that we should capture that. Maybe we could do the same thing here where it just pulls back the same amount and you can, I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean,
the
the thickness
stone
of the
design-
veneer is gonna be like, what, 2 inches?
We'll detail it so that you never see an edge one way or the
Okay.
other, whether it's a pilaster or
Or the
setting it back a
stucco,
little
or-
bit,
yeah.
butt up against the wall, or, because I agree, you don't want to see the edge, because the edge tells you this is fake.
Yeah.
This isn't real
Yep.
stone. And
Exactly.
that's why it bothers all of us. Well, it doesn't
Okay.
bother most people, but it bothers architects.
Yeah. So maybe we can just capture a corner detail to prevent the edge of the veneer from being exposed.
Right.
And then that leaves them the flexibility to pick what material that is.
I'm fine with that.
Okay, so I've changed the condition to detail stone facade, so the edge of the stone veneer is out of view. Okay,
Sounds good.
is that where you're headed?
Yeah.
All right, so all issues have been remedied. In addition to, we did not actually suggest a landscape solution to address the privacy, so I will note that that has been created, and a condition to detail the stone facade, to truncate the planter wall, and a suggestion. Do we want to suggest to add stone to the 3 sides of the entry bump out? How are you with that, Ed?
I think if we leave it as a suggestion, then he can decide.
Oh, sure. Okay, it's just a suggestion. All right, so shall we bring it to a vote? Are you ready? Ed, would you like for us to bring it to a vote?
Oh, yes, please. I'm sorry. I didn't know it was my decision.
Yes.
Please bring it to a vote.
All right, I recommend approval of application for 037-123-560.
I'll second that.
Glenn, would you,
We need a vote.
Oh, sorry, I also mute again, sorry. So I'll do a roll call. Katie Costiuk,
Yes.
Rebecca Captain,
Yes.
Beverly Garrity.
yes.
Okay.
All right, thank you very much. Excellent
you.
response.
Thank you. Good luck on your project.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Does anybody have an idea of when it would go to the planning commission?
So I would say, I will provide the hearing date, within 2 weeks. Maybe, yeah, 2 weeks, is maybe too soon. So I would say, within a month, I will give you a tentative hearing date.
Oh, Tim.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Thank you. Thanks, Beverly. Katie.
good luck with your projects.
Beautiful
Appreciate
house.
it. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Excellent. See you later. Okay, I think we're ready to move on to applicant Tim Pond, the 3:30 PM second project review.
Can we take 4? Can
Yeah.
start
Take
can we
4
take
minutes.
that?
Yeah, like 4
4
minute break would be
4
great.
p.m.
Thank you.
Okay,
Okay, we'll come back at 4.
okay, excellent.
Now it's being recorded.
Okay, this is the owner, Kim and Andrew Dellens, the applicant, Tim Pond, file number PLN 2021-00458, Stetson Street, Moss Beach location. 037-084-240 APN. Consideration of a design review permit to allow the construction of a new 1,117 square foot single-family residence with an 841 square foot partial basement and an attached 441 square foot garage on a legal 5,098 square foot parcel. Recorded certificate of compliance, PLN 2018-00297. The project involves no significant tree removal and only minor grading. The project is not appealable to the California Coastal Commission. Application deemed complete April 26, 2022. Project planner Brian Albini, b.albini@smcgov.org. The way this is written, it's a new 1,117 square foot single family residence that includes an 841 square foot partial basement. Is that right, Tim? You're muted. Glenn, can you unmute Tim Pond, please?
Okay. I think I just make him co-host, so Tim will be able to mute or unmute himself.
Tim, you can't be heard. Hang on.
Yeah, I think Tim is unmuted.
Hear me now?
Yes. It includes 841. It's 1,117 total. No, you're muted again. I'm sorry.
He's not muted, and I don't see the mute sign there. I think he's just has some issues with the microphone, maybe.
Yeah, we can't hear you.
Yeah, can you please check your microphone, team? Yeah, your microphone has some issues. It's not Zoom's issue because you were unmuted and we didn't hear you.
Tim, sometimes if I have that problem, if you leave the hearing and then come back, it works.
Can you leave the hearing and come back, Tim? Sign in again. We can't hear you. We can't hear you.
That's weird. I heard.
Yeah, please leave the meeting and rejoin.
He'll come back in. Brian, are you there? Brian Albini?
Oh, so
what's the question, Beverly? I might be able to help.
The question is, it's a 1,117 square foot single family residence. It includes an 841 square foot partial basement?
Yes. Yeah, if you look at the cover here, I'll share my screen. The area breakdown is right here. So there's the first floor living area, the garage, and the basement, and that adds up to the $23.99.
Oh, okay, sure. Oh, so this is a strange way of writing this up. This is the first time I've seen a basement listed separately.
It probably didn't qualify as a basement because it's a walkout basement. I don't know. That's something perhaps Brian can comment on, but usually it counts as floor area though.
Right.
Yeah, so floor area is floor area.
But there are exceptions where a basement doesn't count as floor area.
In some places, yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know whether this one is exempted or not from counting.
Yeah, it just stood out. So if Brian is signed on, maybe he can answer that.
Yeah, he has some technical issue. He's texting me.
I see.
Now,
How about Tim? Can we hear Tim now?
hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it counts as floor area. It's an unfinished basement for now. They're trying to get in on a budget here and they didn't want to finish the basement, so.
Yeah, and I'm not aware of any provisions in S17 that exempt a floor basement from floor area. So I think
There
this
is actually a
shown correctly.
memorandum. There is actually a memorandum that exempts area, but it has to have a certain percentage below grade. It has to be completely below grade. It has to be walled off.
Yeah, it makes sense. Okay, so since this one is essentially kind of like a walkout daylit basement, it does count.
Right.
Yeah, it's all calced into the floor. Area.
Okay, it was just an unusual wording. All right, Tim, would you present your project?
Okay, so I guess I have to have the meeting back to me. Can I be the host?
You're good.
Yeah, you're now a co-host.
Did you want to share?
You want to screen share?
Sure.
Go ahead.
I can, I have the plans up if you need to.
Can you see my screen or not? Let me see.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we can.
It's not like, you see the elevation screen? See, the scales?
Yeah.
Oh, because it doesn't have a line around it on mine. So anyway, the house is lower than adjacent houses. It's basically a single story with a clear story on top. This is the street view that shows the scaling of the properties relative to the properties next to it with accurate setbacks. Unfortunately, there's no fog there, so I will go into the plans. Excuse me a moment, I gotta get into the plans.
Tim, we can screen share pretty quickly if you'd like for us to.
Okay.
Okay, if you exit, Katie, would you mind?
Sure.
Okay, great. Yeah.
Okay, Tim, if you just tell me what page you want me to navigate to, I'm happy to do so.
Let's go front right side, front right back. So front is there. So yeah, just have your entry and your garage. Unfortunately, with a 50-foot lot, you're stuck with a lot of garage on the front. We have a 10-foot setback on the right side where the neighbor's house is non-conforming and very close to the property line. I think it's within 4 or 5 feet over there, and they have an elevated deck over there. So we pulled back 10 or mostly 11 feet on that side because we have a slight pop out of that clear story that comes along on the right side. So most of the right side is actually 11 feet 8 back from property line. And that gives good clearance for the neighbor who's heavily built right on the property line over there. Then we have the entry door and the garage on the front, and the windows you see up top are all clear story windows. So that we can go to the right side. That blank wall there is basically facing the neighbors. The first part you see there, the blank wall is basically facing the neighbors. And I tried to, and it's a kitchen wall, so it didn't really need to have a lot of view. And then the clear story, which follows down the wall there, has got ocean view that's relatively unobstructed out the back or out the side. And then you have a rear deck, and you can see the existing grade as the high line that slopes down with the existing grade and proposed grade are virtually unchanged. And then I have my 28-foot height limit. We're well under that by, I think, 4 or 5 feet. And then the building, of course, follows the topography of the land and slopes down the hill per the design review guidelines. So now we can go to the back. The back looks kind of cut up from this, but it actually steps back in. So I think that it's kind of a confusing elevation since it does step from the ground floor, which is out more, to the next floor, which is of course in, and then the clear story, which is in further than that. And this gets good western light. This is not facing any properties. I don't think it'll be visible from anywhere except maybe Highway 1 and the street directly below, which I forget the name of the street.
Carlos?
What is it called?
Carlos.
Yeah, so it'll be visible from down there, I think, but there's a large property that's below this that has no homes in that area. It's a large lot that extends past this house. So these will be relatively unseen from any neighbors. And then if we can go to the other side, that faces a neighbor, and I tried to locate windows so that I did not face directly into theirs. We had to have one. The first window is the garage on the right. The second window is a bedroom, and then we have bathroom windows and then bedroom windows. So we have some bed windows over there. And that's it. I mean, we go to the floor plan now, relatively simple floor plan. Entry, kitchen, 2 bedrooms upstairs, 2 bedroom, 2 bath, with the garage and stairs down.
Can you show us the materials and the colors?
I think they're on the elevation pages. It's a light bluish gray.
Katie, I think there's a separate sheet that has a colorized elevation as well.
I don't think it was in this
I
set.
was looking for that. Yeah, I didn't see that. Is that something you have, Brian?
I apologize. If you don't mind, maybe I can pull it up, save time.
Sure. Yeah, let me know. Do you have it ready to share?
I do. I'll pull it up right now.
Great.
And sorry, let me share here. Can you see the screen?
Oh, is that it? That's in the set.
Is that?
Yeah.
It's pretty dull colors.
Did you want to see the colors as well, the swatches in
that-
relation?
That is more vivid than the set, actually, what's in the set.
So is the main body color, I see, the main body color is the sweet innocence and the silvery moon is just is the fascia. Okay.
And the slate gray is the
Oh.
ribbing. Okay, thank you. Any tree removal required, Tim, in the backyard?
Zero.
Yes?
Zero. None.
Zero. Okay, just that hedge in the front, I guess.
That's actually on public property too. So that's part of the right of way removal. That's been required to be removed by Public Works.
I see. Yeah. I did notice when I looked up in the map that a number of properties have their structures over the property line or on it. On Kelmore, on Stetson. Mainly Kelmore and Stetson. It's like the property lines were the whole system went wonky.
If you're using the GIS, Beverly, those aren't exact, but it does reflect that a lot of those buildings were built prior to the setback requirements we have now.
Right. Okay.
Also, this owner owned, I think the owner to the right, you know, for all intents and purposes, use this as yard. And so.
Yes.
And his house is, I think, quite old, the original house. So he's done it. He's done a large project recently too, which looks amazing.
Okay. Do we have any clarifying questions, Rebecca, Katie, for Tim?
Yeah, I have a few, although Brian just answered my first one, which was about the distribution of the different siding. Is there a north arrow on the plans? Did I miss it?
Should be.
Is there what?
A north arrow on the plans. I see that the elevations are called out.
That's erosion control plan.
West,
So
but I didn't see it on the floor plan.
north arrow is right there on the, go back. One more. It's on the site plan, right there.
Okay, is there one on the floor plans?
No.
Okay. It took me a little while to orient myself when I was going through them, so that might be helpful. And then are there specs for the windows, garage door, front door, or an exterior lighting?
The exterior lighting is a Maxim. It's a Maxim, I forget the model, but it's there. The garage door is a Doubt. I did submit a garage door. I did submit a garage door with it though. I can't remember the exact spec, but it's the, I'm just forgetful.
Brian, do you have that information? My husband's playing jokes again. I apologize. He thinks it's the funniest thing when I do design review. So if you hear weird noises, it's not me.
Brian, do you have the spec for the garage door?
I apologize. I was talking to you the whole time and I was muted. I'm pulling it up now. I'm seeing if I can find the file.
Is there one for the front door also, or just the garage door?
It's gonna be a custom front door, 3/4 glass. I can send a shop drawing for a similar door I've done, but it's basically a 3/4 glass door with side light.
Okay. And then is the glazing on the garage door clear or frosted or?
I'd say it's gonna be frosted.
Okay, so I think we just want to have a little more clarity around some of those things. And what are the windows?
We will probably go with a mill guard window with a white.
A white exterior, okay.
Yeah.
A white vinyl or fiberglass or?
The post by the front door, or is that a
That's a-
wall or a post? Is that stucco or wood or what's that?
That's
material?
actually a sculpture and that's not in the plan, so that should probably be removed. That's like a sculpture.
It's not going to be part of the design?
No, it's a sculpture, sorry.
So will the pergola above still be there?
There's no pergola there, I don't think.
What is that showing horizontally?
That is a, ooh, where'd it go?
Who's sharing right now?
Okay, so that's a concrete post with a cedar beam with a cantilevered piece of concrete held with a cable holding up a weighted thing here over a pot. And I built one of these as a sculpture. So it's
So the
basically,
whole thing will be removed?
yeah, there's a bench there, it shows on the floor plan.
Mm-hmm. So is there anything covering that entry door then, if that goes away?
That roof comes down a little bit over it, but not really, no.
And the door is not inset, right?
No, the door is not inset.
And are you pulling the sculpture just because you don't know if it's in the budget or is it not something they want anymore?
I didn't, yeah, I have to get the sculpture engineered, so it looks, I should have taken it out for design review, but probably.
Well, I think if you take it out, that we might want something else there covering the door. So I think if you wanted, I would keep it in. I know we're getting a little ahead of ourselves. We're still on questions.
Yeah, okay, well, I can keep it in. I mean, a trellis in front of the door or something too is you know, a trellis with a little overhang, a little over the front door would help break that face up. That face gets a little tall. So,
Okay, so
We're still doing clarifying questions?
Yeah.
We are.
You have others, Katie?
Yeah, I did have, I was wondering, where do we see the cedar color wood other than at the gable kind of bracket accents? Is that the only location?
yeah, that's it.
And if that sculpture was there, would that wood,
Yeah, that would be a cedar beam across the top.
so that would coordinate that?
Yep,
Okay.
so your trellis might be cedar.
yeah.
So what's the top rail of the glass guardrail on the balcony in the back?
Could you switch to that? I can't remember if I did cable or glass. back there.
I think, Brian, are you the one sharing?
Brian, do you want to unshare and?
Yeah, I'm pulling up the elevation now.
Great,
Sorry.
thanks.
That,
Glass railing? Looks like
that's
glass.
glass railing with it'll be a metal top.
Metal top. What color would the metal be?
I would imagine it BN brushed nickel or something similar to that, brushed stainless.
Okay. And those dark sky fixtures that are called out, what's the finish on those?
Those are actually a bronze finish. The Maximum Light Civic are a bronze finish.
Okay. And then the planter feature that's at the front edge of that balcony, what's the material for that?
I was gonna do painted wood, and that's basically to give a little bit more of an overhang on the door below and then to break it up to, you know. But I was thinking painted wood, like it appear like a fascia or a belly band there.
So it's kind of like integrated into the belly band?
Yeah.
Where are you? The fascia on the deck?
Brian, if you're okay with it, I can navigate and share my screen.
It's all yours.
Okay, thanks. So yeah, just along here, I know that this is a planter. It's that same edge here.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's what I was asking about. And then one other question I had, if this is unfinished space below, is it possible for us to, I was wondering, just, this is one of those architect eye twitch things that most people probably don't notice, but I was wondering about the alignment of these windows and if there was some way to kind of streamline them a bit.
I'd have to look at the bathroom layout. But probably, the bottom one is no problem.
Yeah, because I don't see a layout here, so it's harder for me to.
The bottom one is no problem, but that one could be moved over too. The second one.
And then this one.
Yeah, that can move over. There's nothing there.
Okay, and then the one above is just a clerestory, so that one doesn't really.
Yeah, that was hard to position. That would stay where it is.
So this one would be the one that would govern, if anything, right?
That would fix, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Okay, I think that's all I had for clarifying questions. I did want to mention one thing, and this is not in our purview, but just a suggestion. It might be worthwhile to move this door here so that it's not opening into the kitchen and great room space. So
Yeah.
just something to consider.
Okay.
All right, that was my only clarifying questions.
All right, should we open up to public comment?
Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Chair, we're now opening public comments for item 2. No correspondence was received. I will ask those members of the public who wish to comment to click the raise hand feature to raise your hand to speak on that this agenda item. I will lower your hand after you speak. Those joining by telephone, you can press *9 to raise and unraise your hand. Press *6 will mute or unmute your microphone once you are given permission to speak. Okay, I don't see any raised hands. And for those on Zoom, are there any other persons who would like to speak on this item number 2? If so, I will provide a few more seconds in case there are anyone who would like to raise their hands to speak on this item. Okay, there are no more raised hands. Please indicate if you'd like to close public comment, Beverly.
Yes, please, and we'll move into discussion. I have a point of discussion regarding the clear story, Katie and Rebecca. Just looking at it, I certainly understand the desire for a clear story, letting light in, and it actually, I think, adds to the volume of the structure. Its placement, partially in the kitchen, partially in the bedroom, partially in the great room, seems a little awkward, and I wonder if it can be improved. And maybe the roofing associated with it would help if that were modified. How do you feel about that, Rebecca and Katie?
So I guess what I was wondering about was these spaces that are being created by that clerestory, because they're not appearing to be accessible, but basically you've got this footprint. Let's see, clerestory above. So there's this footprint of space here and along, like here. This is open to the stair, but this is above the garage. This is over a closet and bathroom. So those parts of the clerestory seem less useful from an interior standpoint, but I do appreciate the symmetry of the front facade. From the clerestory standpoint though, these are set back some in an elevation. This feels very big to me. This feels like a big mass, and like maybe having a hip on each end
Yeah, maybe
might
mimicking the
might be a
garage,
little
right?
bit more
Yeah.
appropriate, particularly when I look at the demonstration of scale. You kind of see that expression for every other house. So yeah, that's one thing I do kind of wonder about. That seems like space that's being underutilized and built out. And I hadn't really decided how I felt about that. Rebecca, I'd be interested to hear what you thought.
Yeah, the space, can you go back to the section? It's so you're not gonna be able to see my mouse. Yeah, where your mouse is right now, is that
this part right here?
That's floor, but it's not
it's basically the ceiling of the garage right here, because you can see this is the footprint of the clerestory, and the stair wraps and goes down. So that's that part that's
I
kind
mean,
of
it almost
floor.
looks tall enough to be usable space. How tall is it? It is kind of awkward. It seems like if it's over 6 feet or something, it probably needs to be counted as floor area, right?
Forget what, maybe the county can remind us on what the height limit is that would cause it to be counted.
I mean, that whole wall.
And like this is showing it kind of up higher, but not
If it was
really for-
accessible space, it would have to be under 6 feet to not be counted.
Because you can't get there, it doesn't count.
Right.
Because that's 7 feet and this is higher, but I don't really know why. Like realistically, it seems like this would probably be framed across. You know, and like if that's the case, then we're looking at.
Tim, can you tell us what your intention was with the clear story in the locations that you have
Sure.
it?
So that matches the plate line on the other side of where the floor was, matches the plate line on the other. It matches the plate line. So I need mechanical space, first of all, for the heat pump, water heater, and some other stuff too. So the one above the garage, I was actually thinking of making into the mechanical space on the mechanical plan. So, you know, people have attics all the time, inaccessible attics. For the most part, like you saw, it does work really well with the living area, except for the two areas you pointed out. It goes really nicely into the living area. And in order to orient the view towards the back, I had to shoot it off to the right-hand side to get that view that we were looking for. If you go to the first floor plan again. So the part of the T on the right-hand side that faces the big window out of the living room right there, I mean, if I truncated it on the other side, I think it would look silly. And, you know, honestly, you can vault some of these spaces up higher. The only real spot in the bathroom area and those areas could be used for mechanical as well, but they could also vault up into there. So I did it for symmetry, and to bring that front portion back further really cuts the roof line up. It makes the roof line very difficult in the front to work. If I bring the clear story back further in the front, it makes the roof line really difficult on the lower roof line.
I was wondering if you go to the first floor plan, if you were to start the north-south portion of the clear story where the garage ends.
Yeah, so that makes that front roof really flat, or puts the height of that roof in the front because it has to slope up from the garage door. I had to keep an even roof line around the clear story, right? A somewhat even line along the clear story elevation, right?
Right, so that part stays as is, the front of the clear story. The front of the clear story works. If you move this other section forward to start it at the back of the garage.
Which section?
that back section, move it
You're talking about this?
forward. Yeah, move the start of that forward. I'm actually making the clear story larger. Move that forward to start at the back of the garage and end at the back of the, if you look at the plan, at the back of W13.
You're talking about move this line up to here.
Yes, move that line up to there and move the back line up a little bit to the back of W13.
Where's W13 again with the arrow on it?
See the second bathroom? So
Well-
if you shade that area in, and then you have a roof line like the garages, so you hit the sides. Can you shade that plan, that plan area?
I would be able to do it better if I understood what you were trying to say.
Okay, take the corner by W13.
So like if this is the Clara story right now, roughly, right? So we've got this
Right.
here.
Right, that's it.
Here.
Yeah, that's it right now.
And
So
then
move it all the way left. Move it all the way to the edge of W13 and keep the right side the way it was. And move it forward to start at W13, so it's not in the bedroom at all.
you're saying move it like that.
That's
the
right.
view. The big view is out that window there. I mean, that's the whole, if you go to to avoid the neighbor's property, we put the window at an angle in the living room and centered that clear story right there where the hand is.
Oh, that was your focus. All right, hang on. Let me just finish.
That is this.
Yeah.
And the neighbor's property, right, is, the whole idea was to keep the living moving out away from the neighbor.
This is the Clara story, just to make it a little easier for us to see. Currently you can go all the way over there. Phase 2.
I could easily vault the garage all the way up into the top of the clear story to relieve any thinking that we're going to use that for living space. San Mateo
This
County.
is the current Clara story.
Yeah.
So.
Right. So I understand the focus on that window. It's the clear story's placement is just awkward for the rest of level 1.
Well, it's only those two areas you're talking about, the bathroom and the garage, because it works on the stairwell actually, right? The stairwell, the clear
Works on
story.
the stairwell beautifully.
So you have a little
Kitchen
square in the
is
garage.
divided. The kitchen becomes divided. You see how it's partially, picture yourself in that room looking up, all of a sudden it opens up in a little part of the kitchen as opposed to the entire kitchen.
Well, this is reminiscent of farm buildings, which use this design all over to bring light into the center of the building. And that's the kind of what I was reaching for here.
Yeah, and I understand that, but you're not really in the center hallway of this building. You have a little bit of that going on, but you're actually you're like partially in the bedroom too. You haven't covered the great room, and you're partially in the kitchen. Do you see my point, Tim? I'm trying to get a whole space experience a whole room experience of the clear story.
At the same time, this is stepping in, which is a design review guideline. It steps the building in a lot of places on the upper floor, which is a strict rule that we're supposed to follow to minimize mass.
Yes, so it would still step in. I'm just thinking of you being able to cover a room with the clear story, and I haven't solved the knothole of protecting the entire window. You understand? So I'm giving you more clear story, in other words.
I don't think it needs more. I think that the volume in the middle, first of all, around kitchen cabinets, you do not need a huge loft of space next to the wall where the kitchen cabinets are. They fit comfortably in there. That's actually a high plate line there on that side too. It's like 10 feet. So that side is actually high, and then the roof will vault up. So it vaults up into the clear story. So you're going to get a feeling of space in there.
Sorry to interrupt you. Beverly, I guess I'd like to try to help us focus the conversation. My concerns were really just about, you know, how this was not being utilized and how this was not being utilized. Do you have concerns about the exterior expression of the clerestory?
I do, yeah.
So let's focus on that, and then if we need to problem solve the exterior expression of it from a design standard standpoint, then we can maybe look at how to problem solve that on the interior as, you know, as much as necessary.
So it
Does
was,
that sound good?
sure, it was consistent with what you were suggesting earlier to hip the sides of the clear story in the part that goes north-south.
Something like this.
Well, you
Tim,
might be,
Tim, is that something that you're open to?
you might be
Yeah,
hipping
I'm
them
fine.
all the way back, to the center point.
The only thing is, I do think that the gable expression is kind of good here. I was a little conflicted about that.
Yeah, I prefer the gable expression
I
personally.
like the gable
for him.
expression, but I think, and I was kind of like, okay, I don't like this, but I was hoping that it was set back far enough because it is pretty far back.
Yeah, I
That
wouldn't.
it wouldn't
It's
really
pretty
be something
small.
that we would see as much.
I wouldn't partially hip it like that. I think that makes it busier.
That's not, I mean, it's not a partial hip. It's, are you saying just only hip one side?
No, I'd say go
I
back,
think she's saying to go all the way to the center.
go all the way to the center,
I don't think I follow.
go all the way to the center. So make it like the garage roof.
You mean like that?
Yes.
That would make faster, yeah. that
And
doesn't work.
you may need to raise the height of the back part, the slope, you know, to keep it consistent.
I feel like that,
That seems really strange.
yeah,
to me.
it kind of addresses the issue on the front, but I think it would be detrimental to the side elevations.
Yeah, this would end up sort of feeling like a low slope shed roof.
Yeah, it would, the slopes would need to match. So you would be coming up higher.
You're saying do that?
Yeah, keep the slopes consistent. I don't know what that is.
I'm not really sure. You might have to diagram something because I'm not sure if I follow what you're trying to.
If you look at the garage roof, it would be similar to what's happening there.
So you would have it extend above, you'd raise the ridge?
A little bit, yeah. I think you have it extended a little more than it would be, but yeah.
But you're wanting to match the slope and then you would do something like that? Is that what you're talking about? I'm trying to understand in diagram, but I don't really totally follow what you're trying to.
No, I mean, no.
Do you want to take over and doodle something for us?
No, I just, you were hipping it, and are you matching slope when you're?
Yeah, I was matching slope like this as a hip roof. So this
Traditional
part
hip.
would go away.
It would have a ridge. And then it would
Yeah,
have
and
a
this would
ridge
still be
across
a
the top.
ridge. Yeah.
And yeah,
That's a
okay.
hip
Well,
roof.
actually, yeah. Well, that's one way to do it.
But I do think that this expression, I felt that this was strong enough to trump my concerns about that roof, but I'm definitely open to discussion on that or suggestions on different ideas. But I kind of wanted us to focus on like, okay, is there an issue with the clerestory windows from a design guideline standpoint? And if so, let's problem solve it from that standpoint rather than trying to design it from the interior.
For me, it wasn't strictly exterior. It was sort of how it worked with the interior. And I understand we're not really, our authority doesn't go to the interior. It was a suggestion. I just didn't think it was doing the interior justice.
Yeah, I agree. I think the interior relationship there is a little bit unusual, but yeah, I'm trying to help us stay, within our purview. So what do you think about the clerestory?
Well, I don't like a hip with a ridge. It's not really working. It makes it very busy. So
I mean,
I
it's
would
the same
remove the
thing as
hip.
here, right?
Well, there's another roof form in the back. This was also something, are we in discussion time now?
Yeah, I
Yes,
think,
we are.
yeah.
We
Yeah,
are.
so it's funny, this rear view where the, there's like, it's.
Yeah,
almost
you've got
this
sort
kind
of like the
Frank
reverse
Gehry,
butterfly with a
like
flat spot.
These two sheds coming together with a gap between them.
Mhm.
It feels like there's, I don't know if you would say the gate, maybe the hip is the primary roof form and the gable is the secondary roof form, and then this shed feels like a third roof form, which maybe feels like one roof form too many. But then when Tim brought up the pictures of the other houses on the street, this expression, like
I know, right? Like when I saw that, I was like,
yeah.
oh, it's kind of fitting. I kind of,
Um,
honestly, I kind of wished that that expression was at the front.
So
Well, that window is actually into the living room too. So, I mean, that set there is real important, right?
right, and then where in plain, like the shed roofs that we're seeing.
Well,
On
you
that
just have this
elevation,
small shed. You have the small shed right in front of W14 there, you know, and then you have the other shed roof on the other side. The W14 shed doesn't connect, but the other shed on the left-hand side connects to the long shed roof that goes all the way down to the hip in the garage.
So there's a hip that kind of wraps around the whole house.
That roof there, yeah, that
This
goes
one
all the
does
way
that.
down.
And then this one
Stops there and starts on the other
stops and
side.
starts again here and has a little
And then
shed.
stops to allow the window. I mean, it does feel a little busy, and I take Beverly's point that putting hips on the upper roof would make it more like, oh, there's clearly a dominant roof form here, but I'm loath to do that because I feel like the gable is actually more attractive on those short sides, and adding a lot of character to the house. Yeah, and at the front too, the slender kind of the T-bar with the gable is the part of the design that's working the best for me, in terms of the roof forms.
The front garage or the.
Well, no, the gable, the upper roof, I feel like with the
Right.
T-bar and the, like that works really well for me. So I would have thought about if there was some simplifying of the roof forms to do, I probably would have started with the lower roof or the rear roof personally. I mean, I do think it's a little, the roof forms do feel a little busy. And in part, I think it's because of how that T is asymmetrical, which I understand the reasons for.
Okie dokie. So.
So where are we?
So where are we on this?
Oh, on the rear roof form, the roof form showing on the rear, is there anything to,
I mean,
try to figure out here?
maybe if the hip wrapped all the way around on those sides also, so that it was more similar to the front, it's still, it's a little awkward how it's broken up there.
It's hard to make the hip work there. I actually tried that. It might work on one side, but for the other side, the simplicity of just the shed there, right? Since it's only a few feet wide. And just to give the clerestory a little bit of setback like it has everywhere else, rather than bringing the, all the way out to the face of the living room and keeping the clerestory the same dimension. I think it's like 12 feet. The roof on the left is very small. It's only like 4 or 5 feet wide. And then the roof on the right is larger because that portion of the building comes out further towards you.
And
I worked hard to get a hip, but then if I put a hip on that side, the other side looked odd. So that was.
So if this was to be hipped, basically this head height is the issue, and then these windows are the issue.
Oh, you
right?
mean a hip across the whole thing?
I'm not sure if that's where Rebecca was going with it, but that would sort of tie together what's happening at the front. Like this part is my favorite part of the design. But I think what's a challenge, this part and this part are my favorite parts of the design. But the problem that I run into, the challenge, is that it doesn't feel cohesive.
Yeah.
So this is very cool, but we don't see this. This is a modern style. This isn't the farmhouse style. And this is kind of a farmhouse style, and the rest of this feels very farmhouse.
So it's modern farmhouse.
Yeah, and so it's tough because it feels like we've got roof forms from a couple different styles that are coming together. So I do think that maybe if this did hip, and granted this one is set back further than that one, which makes connecting the hips a challenge. Unless this became covered. If the roof was all the way out to here and this part was a partially covered porch, you could hip the whole thing across the back, similar to this. And that might feel more cohesive. Well,
It might work.
let's do something crazy. Let me do
Let's-
something crazy.
Yeah, the hip.
Because that's what I do, right? I do crazy. Okay, there we go.
Yeah, maybe go to the roof plan for a minute.
You know what I'm gonna do, don't you, Rebecca?
I have a thought. I'm curious. I just had another crazy idea. I was gonna do the reverse. What if you pull it back and put it on the front? This back. This back feels a little bit like that. Ooh, look at that.
Boom. So if you want to, that's kind of what I was thinking would tie the design together. Granted, that's my favorite part of the design, but this is such an isolated element that I don't feel like it's consistent. You obviously don't view the building from all sides at the same time, but it does feel kind of like competing architectural styles to me a bit.
What if that really that does tie it together? Would
That
you do
really
something-
cleans it up.
Would you do something crazier and do the reverse and bring the back onto the front so it looks like Robert Venturi's mother's house?
All right, let's try that.
Who's Robert?
Oh, I can bring it for you. He's like a famous postmodernist architect, and there's a famous house he designed for his mother that has this kind of roof form.
Blue beam is like the best thing since sliced bread. Why is this thing so much bigger?
You have to flip it. Flip it.
For some reason, it thinks I should have to flip it vertical, which doesn't make any sense, but
Yeah, but that's
that
really
would be
gonna do
pretty
it.
cool.
And then if you didn't have the roof,
You'd
frame,
have
you
to
brought down
scoot
the
that
gable
part over
volume.
here.
Yeah, you bring the siding down there.
Yeah, it'd have to go like.
Except the function, yeah, now a little bit of form over function though.
There's nothing going on in the front piece but the mechanical room, right?
Right. And it's north facing, whereas that, or northwest, I forget the difference, northeast.
Well, I mean, we're going kind of far here, but I think that
this
in
would
the
be a
interest of
bigger,
trying to
this
get
would be a
through here,
bigger
yeah.
coordination change and
Mhm.
change of the style. But I think that this does unify the design for me.
I mean,
Yeah, I could see that.
Would you want?
The only thing is that this has incredible western light coming in that direction, and.
What
these
you
are the
could do
big-
is you could pop a couple skylights on right here.
Yeah,
That might be kind of an interesting way to handle it, because from a floor plan standpoint, you've already got kind of an odd transition that's happening right here, because you've got this little strip that's not in Claristory, kind of like what Beverly was pointing out here. There might be opportunity for you to kind of maybe even push this part out to here. And then
well, I like
there's
the idea of
skylights
covering
right
part
there.
of the porch too. I like the idea of covering part of the porch.
Yeah, like it could be interesting. I mean, this is the kind of thing that's going to take some work to work through. I don't think that we can work through all the logistics of this in this meeting. So I think it's kind of a question of if you feel that this could be beneficial enough, it could create partial covered porch. You could have some skylights. It could unify this room a bit more. it could unify the front and the rear facades and the forms and the roof design. But I think it's something that would probably require some time to go back and study a little bit in section and in elevation. And I know that's always a bummer.
I think otherwise though, we get so prescriptive. It feels like there's a lot of different ways that this could be resolved.
I
with
think
the
The
overall
owner
goal.
really likes those windows up there. I can say
Mhm.
that. The owner likes the design. And that, like I could reiterate that direction there, I mean, I can go down to Google Maps on Highway 1, but when you look up, I don't think anyone will ever really see the back of that house unless they really turn their neck and look up the hill.
If I can go for some clarification, so from Highway 1, there's a stand of eucalyptus plus the topography that blocks any view of the properties along Stetson.
Well, I'm not sure that these, that these hips would have to, that it would have to go all the way across. I just feel like the front and rear facades feel a bit like they're from.
Like you could hip it just to here.
Yeah, or something. I mean, I don't
And
even
here.
really want to get into, saying what it should be, because I also think it would be interesting to bring this kind of cut form from the back to the front. I just feel like there should be a little bit more unity in the roof forms.
Mhm.
I mean, overall, I think it's a good question too, like what is the design style that you're going for? Because it feels
It's
farmhouse.
kind of
but then it
competing
feels
from the
kind of
front to the
modern,
back.
and I'm all for modernizing a farmhouse. I just think that kind of knowing what we're going for might help to make decisions.
Well,
Tim, what do you think based on the feedback and the thoughts and suggestions that we have shared so far, Tim?
Well, I tried to really follow design review standards, and all designs are slightly different. And you see a lot of designs coming through here. I've seen modular homes coming through here and stuff that don't have any kind of sensitivity towards the neighbors, and they don't step stuff in. And I've really tried here to step stuff in and not just hit the maximum building envelope, to keep things 5 feet lower, to follow that 28-foot height limit down the hill as I was supposed to bring the top story in to,
Yeah, that's
keep
why I'm
things
asking,
lower.
because from a design guideline standpoint, I think that this is checking the boxes.
It's checking a lot of boxes. Just the one on roof forms, you might have gone overboard a little bit. It's good to have different kinds of roof forms, but it would be nice to unify some of them.
Well, all I have is a mix of hip and gable, so I don't have any flat roof really. So
Well, you kind of do have, you have hip, gable, shed, and flat.
Shed, yeah.
Well, I have gable and hip, but the shed, I guess you call the shed in the back.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's just a half gable really, because it's got that interruption in the middle. But yeah, it does have a shed. I guess you can call that a shed in the back.
Well, you could keep that window cut out there with like and hip the two each side.
Yeah, I can hip that thing in the back for sure on the right side, and maybe
probably on the left too.
Probably on the left. I just have the geometry of it is a little bit. I mean,
So that would hip there. This one would hip lower. This one would need to have the window revised.
That's no problem.
Which isn't really too big of a deal. So I think
that might help.
Honestly, if they both get hipped and it's uneven levels like that and they're not connected, that might be kind of strange. You know what I mean? Like at the front, they're unevenly hipped, but it's a connected roof. And at the back, if these are both hipped.
What's happening below the window?
And also I was gonna ask on the left-hand side, like what that space is and if it needs to be that high, that side. If we would want, if it were hipped and we were trying to connect the fascia line instead.
It's really just those windows.
Okay.
That's why I was thinking if it was hipped and it was connected, you could do skylights and that would bring in that light. But it's a different approach.
What's happening in front of that big window? Is that flat? If you go to the rear elevation? Right below the window, what's that in between the two sheds?
That's a little flat area of roof. A few feet wide. You can see it on the roof plan.
So this is flat. This is a
Yeah.
shed. This is a shed that becomes a hip.
Then
This
you
is
got the
gable.
deck flat. Then you got the deck in the back.
Okay, so what do you think, Rebecca and Katie? Would you want to make a suggestion?
I mean, it feels like there's two roofs, right? There's the upper roof and there's the lower roof. So then to unify it, it does feel like the lower roof should all be the same thing, which is all hip. I don't.
It'd be
exactly
basically
right.
mirroring this
Yeah.
at the
yeah.
back. It's almost the exact same.
And it might
kind of thing,
require
right?
a little bit of, yeah, of rejiggering the heights of things because there is the asymmetry and I can't quite get my head around exactly how that
Why can't
plays
I ever
out.
make this flip the way I want it to?
Um,
There we go.
Well, it's not quite a
Yeah.
true flip, so
It's
pretty
almost,
close.
It's close.
it's really close. Like I
Yeah.
feel
And it
like,
can still have the cutout.
yeah, I think
just-
honestly, if you were able to sacrifice these windows for some skylights and do this roof at the back, I think it would really unify the design and you'd still be able to have that natural light.
Mhm. And I think that if you wanted a continuance and to come back, that you understand what the issues are and you might come up with something better, but that if you wanted to try and get through it today, I think just the simple thing of flipping the roof
Yeah,
is
that
sort of the
this
most
this could be
we're gonna come up
conditioned.
with.
Can we leave the windows and flip the roof? I mean, I can get the hips on just like they're showing there.
And do the cutout with the
I
flat.
can maybe drop that one roof down so that it's appears larger and get a bit of cover on the porch too, maybe.
Yeah, I
don't
mean,
know.
I think certainly I'd want to see how the facial line wraps around.
Well,
But I feel like in
the
principle,
only complication
know?
really is this part in the middle.
yeah, I mean, I think you could cut into the hip, like if it, I don't know, it's, yeah.
Like that.
Yeah, I feel
Yeah,
like.
I don't think you can cut all the way down.
No, not all the way, but.
Because then you're
partway.
gonna end up with these two separate truncated
Mhm.
hips. And when you get that, then I think that the separate eve line is really kind of accentuated in not a great way.
So Tim, if you cut into that hip, if you pull the hip above the deck forward a little bit, so it is a
Like I would pull this line
Bring that down,
over
right?
here.
right, bring it down and then raise the sill of that center window about halfway, then you could probably get a large scale window and still have that fascia line.
Imagine that this is the roof. Oh, come on, shade it. Do a shade.
I'm just wondering if the roof on the left could
come all the way
Yeah,
forward.
could come all the way down and not have that jog and then this.
Yeah, I think so too.
I mean, from the side, you'll see a weird sort of transition. But it's possible.
Yeah, no, I think it's just, it's more than we're probably gonna.
So we could do something like this.
Really meta.
And then I was thinking like skylight.
Right, you were thinking
Skylight.
And if it could be, yeah, that's a clear, it's clear what that imagery would be. But what if he could keep that window with a cutout, just not all of it, just go halfway down the lower portion of that.
Yeah, that's another option. Mhm.
And Tim, are you interested in that option? With the hip roof to cut into
I
the
guess
hip
I'm
roof,
kind
but
of
not-
curious, why is this higher here anyway?
The entrance goes in. And that plate line on that side of the house is higher. You see the plate line on the clear
Yeah, but I guess
story's
I'm wondering
off-
why,
The clear
like,
story is, symmetry is the hobgoblin of small minds. So I moved the clear story off center, so it wouldn't be too, like, the clear story is not centered.
Mhm.
And then the plate line on the right side is higher.
Right, but why?
Why?
Yeah.
Because that's a living area and there's bedroom areas on the other side. And I didn't want to be centered with everything. I don't like symmetry is, not.
I was just thinking if it was like that, that solves the problem at the front door roof if you don't have the trellis thing, right?
It's not a problem. I don't think it's a problem. I like the high
Oh, this
plate line
is
there.
to get that there. Okay, all right. Well, if you like the high plate line, yeah, that's what's creating this condition here. So I was kind of trying to figure out how we could get that all
I
streamlined,
could
but
put a bastard hip in there and drop, I could put a bastard hip and
Yeah, if you did that, given the slider as opposed to high windows, it wouldn't really show anywhere but improving.
that
view back
side
there.
could.
you're talking
that
about this
little-
part stays up, but this part comes down?
Yeah.
The hip comes down more
No,
here.
that has to be continuous through the living room though. That's, that plate line should be continuous through there on both sides.
Right, it would just be a bastard hip though.
No, I meant just up on top somehow.
Uh-huh.
I would have to play with the roof. This, it's easy
Okay.
to look at stuff.
So, Tim, it sounds like you might want to study this a little and figure it out.
Well, the owner really likes the roof. If you guys certainly think that this does not fit the design review standards because of that lack of two hips on the back, then I guess continuance is our only path forward. But
I think we like
I
two
think this-
different sides of your design, but the problem is that it's kind of creating a conflict and it's not really showing a unified cohesive architectural style, which is also one of the guidelines. So we're trying to find a way to unify it.
Yeah, and if you think that those two hips on the back, that is the only way that can be done. I mean, I like the front. I worked hard on the clear story to make it work with that interior space, with the neighbors, with the view. So if that back is the issue, that I'll work on that.
Yeah, I can still see you having the cutout. I like the
Oh, I had an
skylights.
idea.
but- Yeah,
I had an idea. What if this part in the middle? Let's just move this out of the way again. Well, maybe not. What if this part is solid roof and this part is solid roof, and then you have the exposed framing? Have you guys seen that before? Where the framing follows the slope of the roof, but then it would be open, and the
Are they
window
just
hits-
open cavities in the
Yeah.
roof?
Well, no, I mean you'd still have the flat roof part here.
But then some kind of trellis in there, or
It's kind of like, oh man, I wish if we were actually in an in-person design review hearing, I could be drawing right now.
I actually like the hips back there.
I like what's happening back here in the design. That's my favorite part, but I think the rest of the design will end up getting kind of, let's see if I can do this. I don't know if I can do this. Let's say it's something like that. And then this is your Clara story with your windows, right? This is not to scale. That was not me. That's my husband being funny. And then this is framing.
Some beams.
Yeah, beams. So this is roof. This would be wall.
Right.
I don't know if anybody is following what I'm doing.
oh, sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And,
so
and
just
then you could
to,
still have the windows down here. It's basically kind of like, it's like what you have now. But if these were a hip, so let's say.
Yeah, you're just pulling out some beams to,
So, oh my Gosh, why is it?
I like if we're gonna do it, a piece of roof going across the bottom, I think is necessary. Some kind of small piece across the bottom would be necessary, right? Just,
The roof, this would still be here. So we would
Yeah.
hip this would become roof. And then you'd hip this. This is gonna still maybe feel a little bit weird to me because they're not the same eave height, but yeah, whatever. That, and then here, you could have
So at about the styles of the
framing.
beams, yeah, coming out.
Yeah, and you
framing.
might need to do, you know, something like this. So those would be exposed beams, and you'd have, you know, like a ledger here, but you could still have the windows behind, so the expression is still the same. You'd have it roofed here, but this would
Right.
feel more unified.
Is there a reason why the window isn't centered in that space? Can you move the roof in on the left?
yeah, that's probably just a typo.
Here, like that.
Yeah, I mean, just to have it be equidistant. Yeah, and that way you're not fighting that as well. So do you like that concept, Tim?
Yeah, I'd like to play around with that. That sounds.
Do you
that
want to
sounds
have a little
great.
time to explore these things just to kind of nail it? Feel good
Yeah.
about the changes? It's a big thing to want to have to like flush out in a quick hearing.
Yeah, I mean, we can continue it. It's something I can knock out in a couple hours and get back to you with, so.
Okay, so Tim, are
I've
you
already-
asking for the project to be continued?
Can we have some comments that? you guys
Yes.
have-
Yeah, we'll
Okay.
definitely
Let me-
capture those.
Let me summarize that. So applicant requests continuance. The big one, Tim, is the level 1 rear roof to gable, like the level 1.
I would just say unify roof design. I wouldn't get prescriptive.
Yeah,
I agree too. I feel like there's a lot of
So,
ways
overall?
could unify. Yeah, I don't want to.
Okay.
Like,
So are you okay with that general comment, Tim? Unify roof form?
yep, on the rear
Styles?
building, sure.
Mm-hmm. All right.
I'd like to add, consider the top rail, like the hardware of the glass guardrail and potentially the windows being a bronze anodized also to coordinate and kind of tie it together more as something to consider.
yeah, I mean, I feel like we've kind of gone down a rabbit hole with this roof issue, and I feel like that you were getting to something earlier when you asked about the amount of cedar
Mhm.
that.
I kind of wanted to see those secondary colors and materials
Yeah.
carried
yeah,
around the
I'd like to
project
see
a bit
that
more.
And I'm liking that sculpture. If that's not there, I think I would want some kind of other trellis. And I think this thing about lining up the windows should be captured.
Mhm.
Is there anything else I have there?
Yeah, and I think you'll probably be able to work through these pretty quickly.
Yeah,
So
Yeah,
consider
really.
bronze anodized.
I don't like bronze anodized. The metal treatment process is extremely non-environmental, so I'd rather go with like
With
a
the
brown
cedar?
color.
Yeah,
Cedar
you
Or
pick
brown,
out,
you know,
Cedar
for the
top wall?
windows, for the windows, just a darker color, but I don't mind cedar itself, but bronze anodizing hardware
yeah.
is,
yeah, even black would be fine. I know that you said bronze was
Black.
going to be the color of
Yeah.
the door, the garage door and the front door. If they were all black, I think it kind of ties it together and it provides some good contrast because the color palette currently doesn't really have a lot of color
Pretty
contrast.
monotone, yeah.
So you want for the rail cap to be a darker color?
Yeah, I mean, I would say consider a secondary, more contrasting color to tie the design together.
maybe some more cedar detailing, like,
Yeah, I would say to consider more cedar detailing to carry that around.
Yeah,
all
like
four
this
sides.
belly band, I know cedar is kind of a high maintenance product. I know there's synthetics though, but
Mhm.
having that in that color would be really nice.
Yeah.
Okay, consider more cedar detailing, i.e.
You could say cedar or wood look.
Cedar or wood look, i.e. on deck fascia, rear deck fascia. Okay. Put north arrows on plans, garage door specs, we understand, front door spec, we understand. We're okay with the mill guard with white on the exterior, we understand that.
I mean, that was one of the areas that I thought black might be worthwhile.
And they make it dark, brownish black, or I think. They make it-
Okay.
no, I don't think they make it
Is it
black,
the-
but they make it.
I think.
Consider.
I think that color is called bronze, but it's not bronze. I'm looking at all my mill guard samples right here.
Yeah.
Darker,
For black theme.
color for mill guard, window exteriors. Okay, well, if you remove the front door sculpture, replace with trellis, so these are suggestions.
Or maybe just say like, consider treatment of wall above front door.
Yeah, it could be some sort of awning.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, a cedar rounding up there would be a standard thing I do.
Yeah, that would work for me.
Can you maybe, I would say, tie these details into this feature gable?
Yeah.
That would be nice.
For
What's
sure.
that?
To tie these wood kind of
Corbels.
brackets into the gable on the right side. And I guess on the left also, just to kind of tie it together.
Tie cedar roof features.
Katie, can you do a thing for me just out of curiosity while we're on this page in Bluebeam?
On all
At that
gables.
front elevation, can you stretch the wall beneath those 3 clear story windows down so that it cuts into the hip roof?
The what?
I'm just curious to see something about whether you were to bring the cut onto the front instead of bringing the hip onto the back. I'm not, yeah, I just want to see it for a second. Yeah. Not to change anything about the language of what we're saying, which I think we should leave vague and let you come up with it. But yeah, just curious.
Like all the way down?
I don't know. I just feel like, oh, what's in the back is cool, and I just think it can be unified by bringing the front around the back or the back around to the front. Yeah, thank you. I was just curious to see that. It kind of works for me.
Yeah.
Well, if that means.
This is why I want to kick it back to you, because I don't want to really design by committee, but I
like the
seeing
more
Katie work
traditional
with
look in the front. You know, I actually played around with bringing that thing all the way forward, but it's worked, the way it works in the house didn't work. And then I thought about bringing it back a little further, and it didn't make the roof work. There's the variables where.
Yeah, it's a complex 3D problem. We'll let you come up with what's best. So, Katie.
Is the door going to be, the garage door has black?
That's why we were trying to tie together the windows with that.
Around the frosted glass, and the front door, will that be black as well around the glass and skylight? Oh yeah, so the windows for sure.
Yeah, that's why we made that suggestion.
Yeah, that'll make a big difference.
Yeah,
Yes.
like there's a lot of really good design elements. We just want to kind of bring them together so it's more cohesive.
And I appreciate it.
Okay, let's see. So should we actually say black tone mill guard window exterior? Because I think that's gonna.
Yeah.
Yeah. If it's brown, it's so different than.
Yeah, I think just coordinate the color between the garage door, front door, and windows. Yeah, and it's nice because it sounds like the lighting has that darker color also, so it kind of gives it that pop of contrast.
All right, so okay, so basically the big one is unify the roof form design styles, consider more cedar detailing, for example, in the rear deck fascia, coordinate the color between the garage door, front door, and window exteriors, tie the cedar roof features on all gables, align windows, align south windows, south elevation windows, basement window, level 1, level 2 above. Let's see, you have bronze finish lighting. You're good with that, right, everybody?
Yeah, I mean, I would say if everything else is gonna be black, maybe try to see if you can find one that has a black finish.
Yeah, I'm not gonna add that.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're kind of all on the same page with the guidance.
Put north arrow on plans. Consider treatment of wall above the front door. And deck railing. So we're covering. Well, you know, the deck railing doesn't need to be black and it doesn't need to be coordinated. Are you thinking coordinate with the front door and the window exteriors, or?
I was just thinking that if it was like a stainless or a satin nickel hardware, that it kind of was the same,
okay,
the same tone as the main body of the house and everything. So if we have this other contrast, that's an opportunity.
Okay. Let's see, use contrast, consider using contrast color on deck rail. All right, anything else? Does that cover it? Does that cover it for you, Tim? Is that enough of, is that enough description for you?
That's fine.
Great. All right. So I move to, there is no actually motion. The applicant has requested continuance.
All right, thank you very much.
Thanks so much. We look forward to seeing you next time.
Thank you,
Okay.
Tim.
Okay.
Have a nice afternoon.
Thanks, you too.
Thanks, Tim. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Yes, thank you.
Bye,
See
Brian.
you next month.
Bye. See you next month.
All right, we gotta close this thing out though, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So there you go. I'll write these up and get them to you. Thank you, everybody. I make a motion to end our CDRC design review meeting.
I'll second that.
And I'll take a roll call. Katie Costu,
Yes.
Rebecca Ketchum,
Yes.
Beverly Garrity,
Yes.
and Mark Stackmeyer. Is he still here?
Mark's sort of here. Yeah.
Times he's like in the background.
Okay, I think he's probably offline. That motion passes, I guess.
Yes.
All right, thanks everybody.
Everybody.
Bye, take care.
Talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.